Good morning from Miami Beach. This is Dr. John Bennett broadcasting mHealth and Crisis with David Doherty of Ireland, a well-known social media guru. Do you mind if I call you Guru, Dave?
Yeah. You're in Miami Beach. You're allowed to call me Guru.
Okay, it's dark here. Okay, Dave, I'll let you introduce your guests and it's all yours. Go ahead.
I'm here with Professor Sam Lingham, and we're here in London, and we're going to be talking about just the situation that's unfolding. I'll give it a quick introduction. Basically, what happened is we have a thing called Mobile World Congress, which is a congress which has been held for over about 15 years, 16 years, I think. And it's grown into this, huge event. 110,000 people attend this, and they come from all over the world. The Chinese really are huge in this now. In the telecom equipment side, most of the phones are made in China, vast majority, and the telco equipment infrastructure is also made there. And with coronavirus, what's happened is they had a situation unfold where sending people from all over the world, particularly American people, their company's insurance wasn't just not going to allow this. Equally, in terms of trying to contain this and the uncertainty that's known at the moment. So what happened is the event was just cancelled with just like 10 days out, just less than 2 weeks before the event. Currently, the GSMA, which is the organizer of the event, have said that they won't be providing refunds. There's a clause on their terms and conditions. So a lot of companies are going to lose a lot of money, and also the opportunity to take to market new innovations in healthcare. Now, going back quite a while on this, I went to Mobile World Congress when healthcare wasn't something anyone considered you could do with a mobile phone. And I coined this term mHealth to try and help people understand that this was the direction it was going in. Back then, mobile phones and content was all about girls, gaming and gambling. And so this was, it was a very male-dominated, young, tech-focused people. And now what we're seeing with coronavirus particularly is that this is a disease and the patterns that are being shaped completely by technology for the first time, because people are getting their information now from their mobile phone. And that's across all age groups, particularly in China, where this last decade has seen incredible rise of mobile payments, QR codes on nearly everything, huge use of technology, and mobile first. You'll go into homes that don't have TVs, but they have a mobile phone, and this is really to do with the scale of economics of what happens with a mobile phone device, and also what you'll see is that the cost is just what you get for value for money when you buy a mobile phone. So what's happened now is when I first went to Mobile World Congress, there was no talk of this, and then talking with the organizers, the organizers actually sold the conference to the trade association. It's just a bit of history on them. So GSMA, a trade association representing what the world's mobile operators and manufacturers of mobile phones, a trade association had such a big successful event that they acquired it, and they bought it from this company called Informa Telecoms and Media that were running this, based here in London. And Informa Telecoms talking to me at the time, and they said, we can actually run a separate new event all about mobile healthcare with you, David. And so what we did is we polled all the people who went to Mobile World Congress and said, are you interested in healthcare? And these were people that were telco operators in China, likes of China Mobile, Samsung, president of Samsung, president of Vodafone. And I said, yeah, I'll be able to use this database to create an amazing event. And I launched this event over 10 years ago now called the Mobile Healthcare Industry Summit. And the first one took place in London. Then we went to Brussels and bounced around the place. Every year we were running this event, and we were bringing in really exciting people. And then the Mobile World Congress decided this has become such an interesting area for their people that they'd start running on. So they actually did, I participated in it and helped them organize it, an event in Cape Town that was a GSMA mobile healthcare event, mHealth event. And then they basically grew this thing and then decided that it wasn't something that was within their focus area. and they scrapped it 3 years ago. And then it's just turn of events that we're now dealing with what could potentially be a really big pandemic, and we are, in a situation where the mobile industry isn't leading on this, and it's probably going to have such over 100 million economic impact on the association in terms of the loss of not running this event. So, huge financial thing. And where I think really fits in with what you're doing at Internet Medicine, particularly, John, is that the Congress had a massive exhibition, but it also had a conference. And the fact that the telco industry scrapped its own conference is a real sign of how difficult it is for people, even in the tech industry, to understand the ability we have to share content like you're doing with the conferences you're running. I mean, why didn't someone like Cisco Telepresence come in and say, look, hey, we're scrapping this event, but everyone in the telco industry wants to talk. So let's just run a live stream conference. And we've got Cisco Telepresence buildings in every principal city in the world. So we could bring the speakers there. They don't have to travel, and they could, show, the people, the 110,000 people who were going to the conference could still get up to date on what's happening in mobile. And I notice at the moment, the biggest infectious disease event that's taking place in Asia this year has never been live streamed, has never been videoed. And I mean, if there's anywhere where this should be happening, we're going to have Dr. Richard Sills join us later. He's working in aviation medicine. And I mean, these are doctors who only meet people who travel all over the world. And in these situations, I think we really should have live streamed conferences like this. But also, putting this stuff on lets people go back in history. A lot of conference organizers don't like doing it because they'd rather bring the same posters out every year, same people spending money every year. What a live stream conference, a video conference does is it stops people just repeating the same thing. So it's good for innovation, but if you're a conference organizer doing the same thing year in, year out and making money out of it, that's attractive. So yeah, the situation we've got now with coronavirus is that people are being contained. We're being told that 250 million people are under process where they're not allowed out in public. Their mobile phones are monitored, and their use of WePay, which is a mobile payment mechanism that's used practically more than money in China, is being monitored. So if they've bought things like flu medicines, they'll now be told that they have to screen for temperature, and they'll have extra surveillance monitoring on them. But we can only imagine what's happening and we're not hearing about. And what we're seeing here in the UK, in places like Professor Lingham's Medical Express Clinic, is people having the normal concerns, seasonal flu and stuff like this, and coming in with extra concerns. And this morning I was at, before coming here, part of the reason why I was delayed there was I went down and checked what's happening at UCL, where the ambulance comes in. They now have a new side to that for patients who are coming in suspect coronavirus, and they have a containment room, which is basically something that got dropped off the back of a lorry, and it's a wipe down room, and that's processing all those patients first. They've had several patients querying this, and one of the problems we have is, it's a new virus, and people are looking for new antibodies, and maybe people haven't got the experience to test, so we may be getting many false positives. We're also not getting very comprehensive information about the symptoms that patients are getting. So people are saying, well, it's just same symptoms as flu, but it's got a higher mortality rate. And then we're hearing other things like the NHS claims that they've tested 5,000 people and 9 have tested positive. That's current data. And just on false positives, false negatives, we would expect to see far, far more than that. That's that would be like a very well developed point of care test. Finding a virus like this is not something that can be done quite so easily. And unfortunately, this has been indicated with many other, swine flu and things like that, where people got it wrong essentially. So yeah, are we seeing 9 or are we missing 90? Are we, this is a mathematical statistics problem now, and we don't know what incubation periods are. We also don't know what symptom information. And in today's talk, we're going to have, and I say Dr. Richard Seale is going to talk about how symptom information is really important, because what we heard was that an ophthalmologist in China uncovered this. He's now deceased, unfortunately, but I mean, did incredible work before he passed with with this virus. What we led to be told is that he was picking up these patients because of some abnormality with the visual system. And when you see Dr. Richard Seales explain what happens when a patient gives their history on a mobile phone, you realize that we have the screening ability to screen people right now by pushing a button to their phone saying, this is from the NHS, please fill in this information. And if we then monitor those patients and see who develops the symptoms of this virus, we can then go back to the symptom information that they relayed. And it may be that there's other symptoms which are very distinctive to this, which it would be fantastic to know, because that would help the likes of UCL Hospital today manage what's coming in. They had, symptoms that weren't apparent. They could de-escalate some of the response that they're doing. And I think that's going to be a fascinating area where mobile convergence with testing. Every time something like this happens, you get something new come into the lexicon. And what we heard now is sanitary ring, which sounds really weird, but they're now talking about a sanitary ring being put around a village in Italy today, and they've got 3,500 people and they're testing them. And it makes you wonder, if this type of thing was to be done in London, we'd be talking about 5 million people, and how would we go around testing them? And so the obvious response would be push message from the mobile operators. It goes to everyone's phone, allows those patients to give information, allows the NHS to tie that up with electronic health records. So you can see patients, what age they are, where they live, a whole variety of things. And I think that's that piecing together of different systems is going to be what helps manage and understand this virus quicker than we would have done in past times. And I think that's probably the most exciting and immediate opportunity that we should all be working on. And so we've got some people coming in today, for example, Jill with eRedBook. This is a patient medical record for parents with their kids to have a record. When you look at what's happening in China, we're seeing people destroying money at the moment. They're incinerating or boiling money. If you have a paper-based medical record, it's a source of fomites, so the hospitals don't want to see those. So that's another good reason to have an electronic healthcare record. But also, if you're in lockdown and you need to talk to a doctor and you can share your medical record, or you're a researcher who's seeing patients that have developed symptoms, and you can look at them and say, this patient's also got these other pre-existing medical conditions. So maybe we should highlight those patients and give them some preventative approach. And I think that'd be really a progressive move, So so what we're going to do now is we'll go over to. I'm fearing that our first speaker is not going to make it just yet, but he might come back in. So we'll go over to we go to one of the first. We go to. Shall we go to your talk? Shall we go to your talk, John? Do you want to give your talk about?
Well, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
How about the gentleman that's with you? Is he going to present now right now?
Yeah, he is. He's going to talk about the convergence of mobile and medicine.
Okay, why don't we do that? Can we do that?
A little bit. Actually, yours is more pressing.
Okay.
What we've got to disseminate. This is an informational challenge right now for medical professionals. So most of the people that are coming in now know they need to start doing their conferences in this way. If you're representing a medical association, if you're a doctor and you've got a conference coming up, tell the organizers, either put on a live stream or work with John to, put together something. Because if we can do that, we're going to stop doctors, unnecessarily traveling, unnecessarily exposing themselves, and we're going to keep healthcare workers safe. And we're also going to have a healthcare worker. We're going to have Kat from America talking about healthcare worker safety. So we'll probably do that after your talk.
Okay.
We'll do your talk, and then we'll go to the healthcare worker safety, which is Katel Tulenko. We've got both of those videos, yeah? Ready to go.
Okay, let me set it up there, Dave.
Okay.
Okay, just give me.
Coronavirus is a type of virus that can infect the respiratory tract, meaning the nose, mouth, throat, sinuses, or lungs. There are many types of coronaviruses, and most cause only mild illness, such as the common cold. But some coronaviruses can cause severe illness. The most likely way people can become infected is by droplets that contain the virus. These droplets carry the virus into the air and can enter through the nose, mouth, throat, and lungs of a person who is within 6 feet or 2 meters. The virus infects the lungs, causing the lungs to become inflamed. The alveolar sacs have to be healthy for the body to breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Infection of the virus causes damage to the cells of the lungs and triggers an inflammatory reaction. Fever may develop. With severe inflammation, inflammatory fluid fills the lungs. This reduces the function of the alveoli, resulting in coughing and difficulty breathing. The oxygen level in the blood may decrease. In some people who become severely ill, other organs may be affected, such as the kidneys or the heart.
Let me say what I think. First of all, this company have really excelled in the medical education space. UC Irvine published a thing. They really pioneered an anatomy piece, and they showed that students who had the app were scoring 24% higher than students who didn't. So they had a complete control group. So literally, students who had the app were learning that much quicker. And what that sort of tells you is that this is the way to learn anatomy. And the thing was, what it was is you didn't have a textbook anymore. You used the app with the visualization. And for these younger people, this is a much quicker way to learn because there's that 3D sense, there's that depth of field, and a lot of older people just didn't understand that was going to happen. The other angle is that you've always got your iPad with you, and so you could be on a bus or a train and you can do some revision for your work. So 3D for medical, and what you see there is a really good example of content that they've produced. It's not gory, so it can be used as patient information. It can be bedded on your website or whatever. No one's scared of seeing the blood because it's done into a graphic. And for patients, it's really professionally produced. And what we really need to do is show people that we can make made for mobile content that's engaging, creative, professional looking, and patients will deem that we're more proficient medically. If we're up to date in your communications, if you're not, patients will assume you're not up to date with your medicine. And so that's a really challenging area for patients today. That's really good. What did you think of that video, Professor Lingham?
It's very good. Of course, it's for the public, isn't it? Because doctors will know this basic information, what was shown just now. For the public, it's good to see the virus, what it happens, how it damages, and the fact made is also it affects multiple systems. So that's good. It's very short. That's good because that's the amount of time person will actually concentrate on a material or a new information. So information is very nice report.
Yeah. And so, when news like this is going around and GPs have websites and doctors have websites, they can embed quality information like this on their website, and it saves them doing, and if they need to put it in waiting rooms, they can have this playing.
Yeah.
So really good content like this, we should be doing everything we can to promote these content producers because It's not
A little
inexpensive.
bit more animation would be also nice.
Yeah.
See, people are now giving me a lot of information as an animation.
Yeah, we're going to have Firdhaus Kharar talking later. He's
Okay.
he did the Ebola program for the World Health Organization,
Okay.
and basically what he's done is he's done this for low income countries, things like condom. He did a big condom program for the UN, and these are what happens with these is it allows them to make one piece of content and then put the local language over the top of it.
Okay.
And because they're animations, you can have people that, what he's found is a bit like, the Bart Simpson, the yellow man. It's a cartoon character it depicts, but basically it doesn't feel like someone not you. So if you're getting a communication about taking a vaccine or a medicine or a food supplement, and you're in Somalia, if there are a bunch of white guys in London, it's not going to feel resonant with you.
Right.
Whereas if this is a quick developing, like a pandemic, they can't make the content quick enough to regionalize it and localize it for you. So they produce it in an animation, and it can just go out there and work with everyone, because a lot of these countries have got 20 dialects.
Oh, yes.
And so they can change it for those. And they use the same animation, and it actually
Different
more resonant.
Voiceovers are
Yeah.
different. Yeah,
And so
perfect.
animation works in a really clever way behind the thing, and Firdhaus is going to really explain why he's winning awards in that space with Chocolate Mousse. But yeah, it's really good for mobile as well, because a lot of these people in low resource, they've got low bandwidth mobile, and these animations can be very small file sizes. Plus, customers, can share content between their mobile phone. So even if they don't have a data plan, they can Bluetooth it to a friend.
Mhm.
And so you can make some viral content, and it might be that you put these animations with community healthcare workers
Yeah.
who see mothers and give them this information.
And store it and show it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Some mum's got a record, No, what we're gonna do now, John, is we're gonna have you go to these websites that that are lined up there.
Okay. Where are they lined up?
They're on that page just under where you got that last video.
Oh,
from.
yeah. Okay. Let me go there.
So, and what we're going to have is Professor Lingham having his opinion. We're going to
Okay. Yeah, that's a good. That sounds good.
Yeah, and we're going to do what people will find when they look at information like this. Now, you might be a new medical student, you might be a nurse, you might be a carer for someone who's concerned about this.
Even public should be able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Visit the following websites. Okay. Here's the first one. Okay.
So Professor Lingham's a medical educator. He's trained so many pediatricians, and he really understands what patients need to see, doctors need to communicate, and
Okay.
I think it was just fascinating to hear how he. So it's the Innovative Medicines Initiative, and this is about future topics. It's a partnership for health. Right, we can sort of skip that. When we go to the next one, go to next.
Okay. Hold on.
Oh, no, we've got it here. IMI is planning a fast track call for proposals on novel norovirus to be launched in early March.
Okay, where do I go?
No, just leave it on this page. Basically, this is an interesting page. If you get ideas from watching this conference today, and you would like to make a proposal, we might be able to go in with you and help on it.
Okay.
Potentially, we might give you ideas to go and make your own proposal, but there's a future Innovative Medicines Initiative call for proposal, and they're looking for stuff on exactly this area. Yeah. So if you're listening to Richard Sills or Professor Lingham talking today, and it goes, I've got a brilliant idea, you can, contact these speakers, and you can reach out and say, hey, look, I want to make this proposal. Do you want to be part of it with me?
Yeah.
Because these are, this is funding for
this draft right here.
That's it. Yeah. So development of therapeutics and diagnostic combating coronavirus infections. And what you're going to find is when you hear Professor Lingham explaining how medicines and mobile are converging at a really quick rate, and when you hear Richard Sills talking about the sort of private symptom information patients will share with their mobile phone in ways that they wouldn't to a normal doctor. Professor Lingham's on record like 30 years ago for sharing full patient records with the parents of very sick children. And he was ahead of the curve on all this, giving patients their access to their notes. So he's got some real experience in that. But he was also using questionnaires. So if you want to just tell me a bit about questionnaires, the
Yes.
paper-based ones you're using.
Yes, questionnaires. If rather than asking questions every time to the patient, you send a questionnaire in which the patient should be able to fill everything they want to talk to the doctor or health professional for, even with social services or anyone. Put everything in writing first. Then in the same questionnaire, we would have all the previous information. So parents, patients can fill them in with the carers, all the information. So when they go to a professional, every information is there. The other good thing about it is that information is now almost fixed, meaning if they went to see another person, the same information. So you keep the same information in this mobile technology and go and give that. Very soon, when everything is in the heaven, meaning in stored
The cloud, as they
in the
call
cloud,
it. Yeah.
you can take it from the cloud,
Yeah.
all of us, with the permission of the patient.
Yeah.
So that technology is now eminent. It's there. We have to use it, and it will help so that the patient doesn't need to repeat the history again and again, and in the same time, everybody have one good, correct information.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I remember you telling me is when people took their patient notes home, they might go to family, say at a gathering, Thanksgiving or whatever, and you would be able to ask your mother, your auntie, your grandmother how their births were.
Yeah.
And were there any noticeable things? Did
all that
did auntie die of
is
heart
fixed.
attack?
Yeah.
And that information is often lost. And so many people in the tech space are focused on things like genetic records.
Yeah.
And actually, there's so much we can just find out by talking,
Sure.
but it's very hard to open those conversations. But you'd find these comprehensive notes being made by people.
And they're permanent records.
Yeah.
And they're accurate because that's how it was when they said something important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I think into that, we've got the ability to look into nuances. So where we're looking at things like a pandemic that's appearing, and there's symptom information which we don't know, everyone who's affected by this pandemic also had this
something else,
recorded. And it's those little nuances which technology is really good at picking up the pattern of.
Yes, and I think they will be useful as a research tool eventually.
Yeah, and as mobile technology goes into voice, like with Alexa and transcribing for us, I think that amount of symptom information and how people say things is going to be a really valuable new addition. Did patients stall? Did they sound doubtful when they were discussing something? And those things can be now measured, the emotional response to being asked a question. And I think that's going to be so when questionnaires go towards like a conversation with Alexa, with an Amazon Alexa, I think, when you're talking backwards and forwards and there's delays in certain things you respond to, psychological weighting might be put in there. And I think that's going to be a very exciting space. So should we look at the next website then, please?
Okay, just a second.
John's looking well for early morning, isn't he?
Yes, good morning.
You can tell he did a lot of emergency medicine.
Yes, it's still dark here. It's still dark here. Hold on.
Is it dark there?
Yes, it is. It's 5 in the morning here.
Okay.
Even the crocodiles haven't woke up.
There you go. Okay.
We've got them here. We've got crocodiles here.
No way. In London or Dublin?
Lots of sharks. Lots of.
Okay. The next link. Okay, I got the next link. Here we go. Hold on here. Let me share it. Okay. Okay, here we go. There we go.
Okay. So this is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. This is their update. On February 11, 2020, the World Health Organization announced that an official name for the disease that is causing the current outbreak of coronavirus disease, COVID-19. CDC will be updating our website and other CDC materials to reflect the updated name. There's information here for laboratories. about persons under investigations, and these are resources and guidance for the laboratories that are dealing with this. Real-time PCR resources, sputum specimens for nucleic acid extraction, and CDC is growing cell cultures. So there's all these links and resources for people that need that additional information.
Yes.
And I think this is a really good example of how to do it. What we're seeing is that lack of information in many other channels. CDC is just, outdone itself there, really.
Yeah, very nice.
That's the important information that medics and laboratories and handling staff need to be, getting their updates from. Do you see anything like there, John?
I can see it okay. Do you want to stay on this page?
No, I'm saying, do you see anything there that you find interesting?
Well, I'm just worried about the technical part of putting this on. I'm not really listening to you. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah. Well, it's fine, isn't it? Requests for diagnostic tools so people can order stuff.
Okay. Do you want to stay in this page?
No, you are fine.
All fine, yeah. Okay, we'll go to the next page then.
Okay, next page. Okay,
The
next link.
page, next link's going to be...
Next link. Okay, just give me a second.
Right.
No, that's not it. Okay. Laboratory. Well, there's only 2 links, Dave. Which one do you want?
So in terms of the next ones,
The NHS homepage.
Yeah, let's look at the NHS homepage. And see
Okay, hold on.
Let's see what the NHS says.
No, this is a good way to do it. Very informal. Show you guys, you know what you're doing. Showing us where you can get good information online. Which everyone does that. You know that. Okay.
Yeah, and then we're going to do a search for it and just see what.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do. Yeah,
be.
this is good. I really like this. It's informal, and because people really want to know this information here, and they need to have guidance.
Okay, here you are.
Okay, Dave, where do you want to go here?
So straight up, what we've got is it's asking for cookies.
Oh yeah.
Second up, it's got a banner that's popped up, a yellow banner across the top.
Yeah.
Saying for information on coronavirus, please go to our page on coronavirus.
You want to see this?
Back. Go back. That was about EU leaving.
Okay.
Unrelated.
Back.
Okay, so what we're looking here is it's actually got a page. They've set up a page on coronavirus, and because they know it's so topical, they've actually put the link straight there. So when you click on coronavirus, you go straight to it, which means, primary concern of the day. Every newspaper in London, in the newsstand here, is talking about the patients in the UK that have been diagnosed.
Is this a page you go to every day, or?
So what I'm saying is this is the standard homepage for the NHS. So if anyone wants to go to there, so just go up top of it. Let's see what it's telling us to do. Okay, so is a new illness that can affect your lungs and airways. See, I think there would have been a lovely opportunity to embed something like that animation.
On this page,
you're looking at different reading abilities. You're looking at
the time taking. It will take a wee bit of time to do an animation, isn't it? Really speaking.
Yeah, but once it's done, I mean, there's nothing to stop the NHS acquiring an animation and putting it there as the banner. And I think that they've got to move early on those type of things, because that's where public concern. If you overcomplicate everything. The NHS isn't that resource for reassurance, and I think that's what people are looking there for. They're looking to come on there and get reassured quite quickly, and they could do that with the animation much nicer.
They need accurate information. That's what actually people want.
Yeah, but a video is much more. You can reassure that it's professionally done. We know what we're on top of. Whereas that piece of text, this looks like it's brand new. They don't know what they're doing with this. You could see someone looking at that and saying, wow. And what you've also got to realize is when they look everywhere else on the internet, in the tabloid newspapers website, they've got videos, animations with scare tactics.
Well, Dave, you could put a 24-hour-a-day channel there for coronavirus. Continuing news, updates, which is pretty well done now. I mean, there's so many reports now. that the news is pretty recent if you follow the internet. You could, but it's good to have you guys steer people toward credible sites.
So let's look back at our NHS site and see what happens when we go down. See if there's any
hold on.
engagement.
Let me
see
get
if it's
back
often
here.
actually any interactivity and things like that.
Okay.
I think it recommends you go off to the 111 service, ringing up that.
Yeah, because let's face it, everyone goes to the internet for information. Okay, here. Okay, where do you want to go?
Okay, so what's saying? What's the risk of catching it? You get raised the risk to the public from low to moderate. But the risk to individuals remains low. In that, I would like to see a number. I think make this relative. If you've been to a football stadium, your chance of getting it would be this. You can reduce that further by to being in a city.
It is difficult.
It's challenging, yeah. Health professionals are working to contact anyone who's been in close contact with people who have coronavirus. Maybe there would be, please ensure that with your GP, you have your mobile number registered, or maybe, ensure that your email address is with your GP, or, that type of thing would be a good opportunity to drive people back to where their communication with their family doctor, because in the UK, we've got a brilliant GP service. And so opportunities like this would be stop looking at the internet, go back to your GP. I think you could reinforce that. How coronavirus is spread, because it's a new illness, we do not know exactly how coronavirus spreads from person to person. Similar viruses spread in cough droplets. It's unlikely coronavirus spread through packages from affected countries or through food. So this is a big concern that people are getting.
Yeah.
The air in your bubble wrap comes from China. So
okay.
How to avoid catching or spreading germs. There's currently no vaccines for coronavirus, but there are some things you can do to help. And there you've got the do list and the don't list.
Very good, yeah.
Brilliant animation could be done there.
Very good.
Showing people how to use tissues correctly, how to wash hands. The NHS has got great resources for that. So it'd be lovely to see them putting that there. Do not touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. If you've been to China or other specified areas in the last 14 days, follow the advice on this page for returning travelers.
The 111 is there.
Yeah. So symptoms are cough, high temperature, shortness of breath. Call 111 now in red. If you've been to Wuhan or Hubei in the last 14 days, even if you do not. So they're telling everybody who's been to that area to call 111. Now that's quite incredible, yeah. To other parts of China, including in the last 14, and have a cough. Okay, so they've stretched out the area and they're saying if you've got symptoms, and even if you don't have symptoms, if you're from that area, you've been in that area in the last 14 days, come forward. And then to Malaysia, Japan, last 14, again, the same thing. And then in close contact with someone with confirmed coronavirus, that's when you got to call 111. Do not go to a GP surgery, pharmacy or hospital. Call 111, stay indoors and avoid close contact with other people. Tell 111 about any recent travel and any symptoms you have.
Dave, I think I need to mention the incubation period now. Like it's 14 days, but I've heard this morning it was more than 14 days of the incubation period, that you can carry the coronavirus but not be sick, correct?
Like I say, it could be a test being done in error. It could be, what we're going to hear with John Rappaport is that there have been viruses before where they were sensationalized and people, reacted to them in ways. So we don't know. It's nice. We saw the CDC page there. That wasn't given this prolonged, protracted period. So who knows what's real? And that's a real concern. We've got so many other means of getting content to people today. And that's the importance of the NHS.
Very good information, how to isolate.
Yeah. So if there's a chance you have coronavirus, you may be asked to isolate yourself. That means for up to 14 days, you should stay at home, not go to work, school or public areas, not use public transport or taxis, ask friends, families or delivery services to carry out errands for you. Try to avoid visitors to your home. It's okay for friends, family and delivery drivers to drop off food. While the risk of the people in the UK is low, these steps can help reduce the possible spread of infection. And I think ultimately the communication needs of those people are helped by having FaceTime and WhatsApp and stuff. So mobile's playing a big role in helping people isolate themselves, stay productive with work. You know, work from home is now possible for a lot of people. Unthinkable 10 years ago, maybe. Treatment for corona, but no specific treatment, sufficient aims to relieve the symptoms while your body fights the infection. And I think, you know, maybe there's a nice preventative thing here. What would have been nice here is to see sleeping well reduces your
immunity will be improved.
Improves your immunity. And they've now said that with flu, it's like 3 times as much. If you're sleeping well, you've got 3 times lower odds. The same with this coronavirus, for some reason, 6 times. I'd love to see information like that on there, because there's something people can do. You know, don't panic, get some sleep. The best thing for you is your immunity. Eat loads of fresh vegetables. You know, these things. These are great opportunities to do public health messages, and I think it's nice. And then look, further information onto the travel advice, onto the World Health Organization coronavirus Mythbusters. I think, you know, that's your fake news thing. That's great, you know. Do you like it, John?
Yes. Yes. Where do you want to go next, Dave?
Let's do a Google. Let's see what Google gives us.
Clinical aspects?
Let's Google coronavirus and see what how scared we can get.
Okay, let me go back. You want to go back here?
Yeah, we'll just go to a Google search.
Google search, okay, no problem. Coronavirus?
I mean,
yeah, sure. I love this. Just doing it live browsing.
Well, not .com, not coronavirus.com. Well, someone's registered it. Well, that's good. Let's see who is and find out when they registered.
Okay, you said Google coronavirus, right?
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
Find out how much they're selling that website for.
Oh, okay, yeah, probably a lot of money. Okay, okay. Which one
when
do you
they
want to
know
go to? Which link do you want to go to?
Who registered? What country were they in? Okay, so you've just SOS alert. What's this up the top?
Which link?
Go up. It's doing something interesting there. It's got SOS alert. What's that mean?
SOS alert.
The top thing with a link. I don't know why that's.
Oh, right here. Okay.
So there we go. 1.3 billion results.
Nope, doesn't have. Which one of these do you want?
Okay, so we've got videos from the New York Times, Fox News, and the Washington Post. We've then got Twitter. Search, so Twitter's straight up there. So anyone can have an opinion, and they're straight on there on Twitter. What you'll find if you go on that Twitter, go onto that Twitter and let's see what happens.
Okay, let's see here. Okay.
No. Click on the one that says, the top one that says search coronavirus. Down a little bit.
Here.
That's it. Yeah. Now that's just going to search the top thing for corona. So first thing is a book published in 1981 that talks about an outbreak of a biological weapon. So this is the type of thing that's terrifying people.
Okay, this is 1981, the first one article, you say?
Yep, the first article is this book that's doing the
1981, wow.
So Eyes of Darkness, a book wrote about this blowing up China's most important, dangerous new biological weapon in a decade. They call the stuff Wuhan 400 because it was developed at RDNA labs outside the city of Wuhan.
Wow, it's a perfect weapon. Wow.
400, yeah. And this is a perfect weapon because it only affects living human beings. So they'd all die, and then you could just come into the city and clean up all the dead bodies.
But that's not true. Don't animals carry it? Isn't that how it was originally transmitted?
So this book was written in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's believed to be a book from the 1980s that's pictured here.
Oh, okay.
What they're saying is someone actually sat there and imagined a bioweapon and wrote it into a scary book. And
that's a fiction book. That's not fact.
It's a fiction book written 40 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So,
of course, that's something certainly to consider as a possibility.
Well, when you hear no fake news, you'll realize there's a lot of possibilities. And I mean, here we are. That's what's terrifying people. If they can go in a library, pick a book up, and it's got something like this predicted 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So severe, and it's got similar symptoms, and there's the picture of the book. Now, I could make that image up with a cover of a book and put that out there inside about 15 minutes with Photoshop.
What is the second one?
And so even if that book didn't exist, that type of rumor could just get accelerated. But interestingly, Twitter has decided to put that up at the top view. They've also put on the top Centers for Disease Control, which is the page we went to before, which is a good thing. So Twitter are doing something proactive, but they've allowed that to get up there, which is okay. So the famous Venice Carnival. So coronavirus cases. So Al Jazeera English. So they're getting paid some money by, and if you go down then Politico, the Chinese president. Let's see what he's saying about the Chinese president.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
we're down.
Don't stop. Epidemic. It was the country's most serious public health crisis. So, yeah, okay, that's 43 seconds ago. So, world news is now breaking this quickly to people.
Yeah.
Chinese president said something 43 seconds ago, and people are now on Twitter talking about it. And this is an incredible,
It's a new world we are
New
in,
world, yeah.
Historic magnitude. Wow.
And then more people in white paper suits scaring everyone up. Let's go down a little bit more.
Okay.
No one's talking about this incredible conference you've got on, John. What's going on?
Okay. Well, we're just starting. We're
Yeah,
just
coming together
starting to roll.
So that maybe we should have done this in paper suits, and we would have got more buzz,
Look at this. Wow, this is certainly affecting the world.
Can you imagine how hardworking these people are? What they
Yeah. Amazing.
Really?
Wow.
Tough, huh?
An animation showing you how to put on protective equipment. Really, we're going to hear more from that one.
Tough.
Okay. So South Korea works to disinfect public places in Seoul. Total number of coronavirus jumps to at least 833. And they've got all these little blower machines already out and being used. So, packed markets slow down. Imagine the commerce, the business that's turning over.
No,
here.
Dave, it's transmitted by animals, correct?
I'm not sure,
Oh, okay. I'm not sure either.
but they're saying it could have been a jump in species, and there was talk that it came from bats, and a lot of these stuff aren't being said by official government sources. So. But what's really scary is some things are starting as conspiracies and then later being confirmed as the genuine story. So the Harvard professor being arrested, it's quite a. It started out like a that's a rumor, and then
A lot of information here, really.
Yeah.
Really.
Now let's look at that one. See that one there. So the KMAs are officially cancelled. So they've cancelled some awards thing, and then K Music Awards, and then it's all in Chinese, right? So if you click on that, so you're not even getting
What, the book fair here? The book fair?
You click on that top of that, up a bit. Yeah.
Oh, top of it. Okay.
No,
Hold on.
Watch. I'll show you something.
Right here.
There. Now you can click translate tweet. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah.
Click translate tweet and watch. So now the level of infectious disease crisis alert was seriously upgraded, and it was difficult to proceed with the award ceremony when the government and all citizens tried their best to prevent the spread of infectious diseases.
Yeah.
Therefore, the 17th popular Korean. So actually, the Google Translate's working.
It's
It
cancelled.
seems
So a lot of things are being cancelled, of course.
a lot of things being cancelled, but we can also now read other people's newspapers. So we can read news sources from Korea, but obviously that's all gone through the Google algorithm that's translating, which may have a bias in it as well. So
no, I think these are all accurate translations, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Automatic.
Yeah. But I mean, you look at the speed that's now happening. You'd have had to wait hours before translators were onto this, and now we can also read people's opinions in Korean. And so
The Koreans can read what others are saying in Korean language. Yes, of course.
And so
Interesting world.
yeah, that's nice. All right. And I think we've seen. Have we seen a good bit of that? Let's see what else is there on. Is there another link there?
That's the bottom.
Should we scroll down a bit more?
That's about it. That's as far as I go.
Yeah, go back to the page again.
Oh, okay.
Go back.
Yeah.
To the search. Yeah. There you go. Let's go down. Just see if we can get something that's really.
Okay.
So we got a dude in a mask. Let's see what he's talking about.
Market slump. It's affecting all areas of the world.
People are dropping on the footpath, literally.
Oh,
okay.
That's it.
And look, this is what's.
This is serious.
They're dropping on the footpath. Well, I didn't see that. This is from China. So it's alleging there's a cover-up in China about what's going on.
Yeah.
Is that so, Dave?
Well, I mean,
No, I think they're putting a lot of good information.
well,
Okay.
It was a roadblock, and it really started trending on Twitter and things like that. And it was saying, this roadblock's happening. And then what they found out, it was a movie. And they'd actually got the movie clip from a movie in China where this guy drives through a roadblock in a Range Rover.
Oh, look at this one, Dave. Can you guys address this? How the Wuhan coronavirus spreads easily. Okay, they're showing actually how far it goes, right?
Yeah.
Coughing and seeing. So I guess you can get it from contact too, right? Beside the cough and droplets. Yeah, contact. Okay, I see. This is a good video. Shows how it's actually transmitted.
Yes.
She grabs the rail, puts her hand in her mom's hand.
Right.
Maybe gives
Scroll
it to
down
her.
there, it's this one: house arrest violator sneezes and touches health officials in Israel. Wow.
Sneezes and touches health officials.
Wow. So they found someone who's on house arrest who's violated it, and then he's not obliging. And I mean, it's not going to be surprising that there's going to be psychological problems when people are developing this flu, particularly if they're looking it up online and finding out this has got such a fatality rate. These people are sick and they might be trying to get their lives in order. And then health officials are telling them what to do. So you can imagine it's millions of pilgrims to arriving from every year of the descent of the Prophet Muhammad. And Iran has confirmed coronavirus cases.
There's a huge festival coming up.
Yeah. Australian Tim McLean remains trapped in Hubei province, unable to leave his apartment for over a week. Some of his neighbours have coronavirus in their building. Has been locked down with guards stationed outside 24/7. I'm absolutely petrified. Not only are we quarantined, but it's beyond quarantine. So yeah, personal stories before were just not possible out of places like China, and the internet's allowing them. And then you have to judge: is this a true story? Is this just someone's pictures that have been lifted off Facebook to promote some other agenda? Most people haven't got the investigative journalist skills to read into this, so it's probably better that they don't worry themselves about it. Would you say?
Oh, well, if these are true, then we need to know.
Yeah. And,
They are true.
police outside the northern Italian towns on coronavirus lockdown. So, people can do what journalists couldn't do. Journalists couldn't do this 10 years ago. I mean, this was unable. You couldn't research something like this that was just emerging.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah,
And some people got the ability to read into that and freeze frame that and look at the police cars and look at what's going on and look at him as a liar, a truth teller, whatever, and make discernment. So
look at that. Vietnam canceled flights to South Korea. Yeah. Wow, this is moving fast.
Yeah, so the airlines are completely empty. One of the things we're going to have Richard Sills talk about is how they can address this. One of the things I found fascinating was that Mobile World Congress was cancelled, and none of the airlines are refunding the tickets.
They're not refunding tickets?
No, and the hotels aren't either. And what we've got to look at is that technology has allowed us to book all these things with last-minute availability and stuff like that. But what it's not letting us do is get out in situations like this. And really, I think the most progressive airline...
No, the banks will be fair.
Yeah, maybe. But I think, the credit card companies, I suppose, the insurance on there told people. Yeah. But I think what an airline should do right now, if we've got any airlines watching, this is how you win in marketing. You come out and you say, if you fill in one of the questionnaires, symptoms questionnaires, you can have a cancel-free flight, meaning you can fly another time. One, they wouldn't lose money, but two, what they would offer is they would offer a promise to people who are boarding their planes that no one is on that plane simply because they couldn't afford not to be on it. Like, airlines got to be working to say, if people have got flu, please don't try and fly today. You know, and in that instance, if you don't fly, you won't lose money. And by taking a monetary decision out of it, it means that more people on the plane are going to be healthy and less people are there flying ill. And I think that's a really good initiative. If we saw an airline do that, they're not going to lose money. They'll lose money by people having fear of flying. That's why Heathrow Airport's empty at the moment. The planes are lifting off empty. It's because people have a fear of flying, and they can address that. And they address that really easy. The passenger sitting next to you isn't going to be coughing and spluttering. We're going to use a thermal camera. If we see anyone like that, we're going to take them off the plane. That would be reasonable. You know, how are they protecting the people that are on the plane? How are they protecting their staff? How are they, you know? So yeah, I mean, you can just scroll all day, and I think some patients are. Look at this empty road.
A lot of information here. Yeah.
There's Hubei.
Homeless dogs occupying a main road
Look
where
at that.
presumably cough.
Animals in the street.
And people are putting this so that other people need to
It's
know.
affecting the
That's why they're
economy
putting this.
big time.
It's fun.
Look at that stock market, the quotes. Wow. Oh,
And that's nice.
Okay, they have look at a recovered patient. They try. I guess that's how they get vaccines. Sometimes they go to people like that. And
Yeah. So one of the nice things that's being done with mobile is some countries have done mobile first blood donation programs where they basically tell people when they need to, when demand's up to get people coming in, but also a reward. They've got things like thank you, things that come from patients who got their blood. And stuff like this is happening to encourage people to feel more like your blood was used for this purpose. And I think that's you know, it's got some really good goodwill stuff that goes with it. This plasma stuff is very valuable. The patients who are going in to have this done, you know, putting themselves through a lot. They've just been sick. They've just recovered. It's
so they're looking for donated blood, huh?
Yeah,
From patients who are recovered.
and that's not donated blood. That's donated plasma. So they've sat on the machine processing for ages. So there's a lot of time in there, and that's quite a
excuse me, Dave. You see this on the screen, right? About getting plasma for people that have recovered.
yeah. This is what we were just talking about. I mean,
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry.
You know, these patients do a little bit more than blood because they have to sit there tied to that machine for quite a period of time.
Oh, okay.
And so motivating those people and you know, getting the message out there that that's a
People will do this to help each other. Yeah, it's fine.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the malls aren't crowded now. That's it. Oh, that's in Italy. The empty malls.
Yeah. Okay. So
Even though 2 cases, empty malls. Wow.
George Bush wouldn't be happy, will he? Wasn't his answer to America when they were stressed? Just go shopping.
Yeah, let's go shopping. Probably get some good.
So we got a scary little lockdown. The doors are all barricaded. So there's
barricaded doors.
Yeah. Now you really don't know what that could have been. It could be a storm coming. There could be damage. This could be recorded at another period of time.
No, I think that
Italians. It's look at this. Italian stocks ravaged.
Yeah, Italian stocks got down 4%.
Wow.
Schools in Korea, U.S. schools in Korea closed. Restrictions as it raised the risk level of the military community to a high after a dependent tested positive in South Korea. So Bloomberg's got some in there. Italy considers emergency tax relief for areas hit by Europe's worst. So, and then there's tellers. Look at the way these tellers are.
Oh my God. Wow, different world.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it's stays a different world and they contain it.
Yeah.
We don't really want to.
Well, that's brings up a question. When would they consider it contained when there's obviously no new cases? But what other things are they looking at to judge that it's contained? And you have anything to say about that?
What do you think they'd say is contained?
Contained.
They'd
Well,
say that
well, they talk
new
about it. They
cases-
say, yeah, they
Number
talk
of new
about,
cases per day.
containing it. What does that mean?
number of new cases per day.
Number.
New cases. So just when the number of new cases stays stable or goes down.
That's it.
And new areas aren't affected.
Okay.
But if people are trying to get out of that area and flying, then that is not a containment. No. Especially if there's a prolonged incubation period that people aren't certain of yet. And then there's just really bad pictures there. The real situation in China for the sake of coronavirus. And, things that most people would be traumatized by, children in just terrible state. And this is how accessible the mobile phone has made content, which is, most people wouldn't be able to handle that. They don't get an option. They scroll down, 2 swipes of the thumb, and they're seeing something that trained professionals.
So what is the solution? That's how it's going to be. And children needs to be taught to understand, differentiate what is correct, what is not correct. That's how it's going to be in this new.
I think a lot of people with the
And in the same time, you have very nice
Yep.
shows, very educational materials.
50 people die in the Iranian city. I thought there was
So could you imagine being someone that was naive to, the way media works? Like the worst and the best things can be seen side by side. And some people sit there saying, well, there's a duty on the likes of these social media companies. And so in a way, these social media companies would love there to be a duty, because if they put in the duty, no one could compete with them because they'd be deregulated. So I think, there's that challenge of free speech. But also, if you've got a child, it might be wise to not have them on social media, because this type of thing can just pop up without any sensitivity warning, and so parents who've let their child, your child hopefully will never see another video, anything like that type of situation in their life. But if you give them a mobile phone, it's highly likely they're going to see it with 2 swipes of their thumb.
look at that. They're taking the mom away there.
Yeah, and so you're searching for information to learn about something that you see trending on the news, and you're straight into a traumatic episode that you're not prepared for, and you can't undo seeing. And some of these are going to be fake, some of these are going to be real.
Yeah.
And most people aren't going to be able to decipher. I have no idea why that lady's being taken away, and it could be and then we've got someone from the earth in Christ, Jesus the Lord. We must earnestly repent from the highest to the lowest. Behold the judgments of Jehovah. And what you've got to realize is algorithms are making this live stream. What we're seeing here, some computer has decided that's the order we should see this in. And that's related to who you're following, who's following you, the region you're in, what you search for, the time of day you search for it. But yeah, it's very challenging. I would say children off social media. I think this is the perfect reason why children shouldn't be given a phone with the internet on it. And I think it's the perfect reason children shouldn't be using social media, because you can't protect them from seeing.
So be aware of hysterical proclamations. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So should we go to see what's
Okay, where do you want to go, Dave?
should we play keeping? I think fit into that is maybe the talk by Jill.
Okay.
Right, let's go to something a bit more. We have a problem that when things lock down, people still have all the current medical stuff that they have going on. So they need their medications. They need to talk to doctors that know about their doctor might be ill. Their doctor might be relocated to work somewhere else where the healthcare service is trying to deal with a situation. And so you might not be seeing your normal doctor. You may be quarantined or may have to stay away from home. And you need that medical information, and parents need to be able to have that. Paper may be considered a format, so having your information in the cloud can be very helpful for that. So if we go to Jill Devine's.
Okay, you want Jill's
Yes,
lecture
we're talking
next?
about monitoring and managing your child's health with the eRedBook.
Yeah,
And I
let's
think
have a look.
let's have a look.
Are we going to Jill now?
Yeah, Professor Lingham actually published a book on this 30 years ago.
Yeah,
And it was given
5 years ago.
it was given to every child in Wales, for example. When they were born, this little book would go and they would put their vaccine records on it. And it was called It's My
It's
Life.
Your Life.
It's Your Life. And what's wonderful is that is now an app, and you can use that with mums can use that. The NHS is promoting it. Apple Health are involved with it. It's just that very important first information that people have, and it can be useful in terms of when you get a pandemic like this, but also in vaccine safety.
In general life too. Yeah, you could put your achievements, your winnings, your health, your development, everything. Yeah.
And now we've got cameras on our phones.
Your weight,
Now we've got
everything.
cameras on the phone, pictures of the child, which pediatricians can
Yeah,
review.
and link
Which,
them up into the red book. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll have a little play of that, and we'll see what that looks
Okay,
like.
what do you want to see now?
The eRedBook, Jill.
Jill, okay, let me get to her.
Yeah, and then play that, and then
Let's see.
Okay. Let me know if you can see it okay.
Yep, perfect.
Bene, I'm the CEO of SiteKit Applications Limited. At SiteKit Applications, we believe that the person is the most important person in their journey to health and well-being. And we believe that they need to have the information and knowledge to support them on that journey and to make the right decisions. Now that's a big ask, and we've started in the obvious area of newborns to 5-year-olds. So if you have a child in England, as a mum, you are given traditionally a paper red book. It's called the red book because it's got a red plastic cover. And in that book, it's supposed to tell you as a mother what's going to happen to you and your child, and what the important immunisations and physical examinations that the child should have to make sure they have a good chance for a healthy start. It records heights and weights and other information about the child's development. Now, we've been working with the NHS for a number of years because, quite frankly, most mums who've had that paper red book, well, I worked in the health service a long time ago, and I managed community services across Kent, and more often than not, you would be given back a pristine copy of the paper red book because the mums just didn't feel that it was their place to write in it. They were a bit in awe of probably the health visitors and midwives, and they felt they were just carrying the record to give to the midwife and the health visitor in case they wanted to write anything in it, and if they didn't, well, fine, they gave it back when their child went to school. So we've been working to make that digital because, well, quite frankly, the mums of today are used to a digital experience. And we've had comments from parents who said, why do I go and register my child, or the fact that I'm having a child, and then get loads of paper? And sometimes that paper is additional paper to the red book, and it's in poor condition, it's out of date, it's scribbled on, it's updated in pencil or pen, and it's really poor quality, and it's not in any context. So we've developed the eRedBook. Now the eRedBook, as I've said already, relates to the Healthy Children's Programme. So it has the right information in the right place about what the child should have as they start their life. The content is worked very much with the NHS, so it's all the advice from NHS Central, and we've also worked with other partners such as UNICEF and NCT to have the valuable information that's in there for mums in a way that is easy for them to access. It's clinically safe, and it's been endorsed by the health visitors and the paediatrician societies and professional bodies that we've been working with. So the features of the eRedBook, and mums can have this either on their laptop, they can access it there, or mostly people do it on the phone. We very much wanted to produce a longitudinal record, which was more in line with, I suppose, Facebook, so that the stuff was relevant at the time. So it's no good telling a mum that at 19 weeks their baby should be doing this, that and the other when the baby is 9 weeks old. That makes no sense for a mother. 10 weeks in the baby's life is a long time, and they're busy, they're exhausted, it's their first baby, they're finding it hard to cope with, or they've already got other children and it's, you know, it's difficult managing and juggling everything. They may have to go back to work. They haven't got the brain space to think about context and what is relevant when. But with the digital eRedBook, the eRedBook does the work for them. So the longitudinal record, as you see here, tells you what's happening when, and points out to the mother that the child is about to be invited to go and see the health visitor and what that visit is all about. So when the mother goes, she's less anxious, she knows what's going to happen. The professional that she's seeing has a much easier interaction because the mother has arrived prepared and knowing what's going on. The eRedBook provides information, so we flow data from other systems where immunisation is recorded, for instance, and we flow that into the eRedBook so the mother has a record of what's happened for her child. The mother is also able to make notes and upload photos, and the professionals who are working with mothers who've got eRedBook in London are feeding back to us that that is really proving to be quite useful, and mothers are much more interactive with the digital eRedBook, the eRedBook, because they can, it's just how they work, it's how life is now, and they can put a photo of the child, you know, playing on the computer or whatever, and, you know, make a comment, which is a much better record. The other features include being able to record contacts, being able to record height and weight. Height and weight is critical in the early years, as it is for most of us, most of our life, because it shows whether they're developing in the normal range that would be expected. So the mother can actually record the weight or the height in the eRedBook. It's very easy. They don't have to try and think where that weight goes as a dot on a diagram. They just put the figures in and it's automatically done for them. And the difference is shown by a different symbol. So if a professional records the weight and that is fed into the system, it's a square, or if the mother does it, it's a circle. So it's very clearly seen who's recorded the weight. The developmental first has been one of the sort of aha moments, if you like, of the eRedBook, because in the paper version there was a list of things that the parents could record. They very rarely did. But in the digital, obviously you take advantage of what you can do with digital over and above paper. So with digital, you can upload a photo of the child holding their head up for the first time, or taking their first steps, or looking, or speaking, that automatically records when it's done. And we're getting feedback from therapists in particular who say that that is proving to be very, very insightful. So if there's a problem that develops later on, the therapist will ask the mother to share what they've put on the eRedBook, and by looking at the developmental first photos, the therapist is able to add that to their whole experience and interaction with the child and the mother, and possibly help their diagnosis. Professor Lingham said that actually the most important observations of a child and their development come from the parents, and that professionals need to be involving parents in the care and development of their child and taking note of what the parents are actually saying about their child's development. An eRedBook is a personal held record that the mother holds for the child is a very important step forward to make that happen. I've spoken a lot about the mum, and obviously the eRedBook is linked to the mum, but it is also available for the father as well, so they can have access to it. And again, we've had feedback from parents that where the father is away, in some cases some of our parents are in the armed forces, so they're obviously away overseas, but also a lot of parents work away during the week, but they're able to share in those development first moments that they just couldn't share in another way. So I think that whole involvement. Also, some of the feedback we've had from the armed forces, from the health visitors who work with the armed forces, is that they're finding that the fathers relate better to a digital record than they ever did to the paper eRedBook, because again, they're young men and they think and they act digitally, and it's a natural way for them to be. But it also, the circle of care allows for the professional to have access if the mother allows it, so that they can see and enter some information into the eRedBook. You can allow grandparents to have it as well. And another mother described it as her family management system, because if she's tied up in meetings and can't take her young child to the meeting with a health visitor or the weighing clinic, her mother-in-law can, and she can have access to the eRedBook just the same as the mother would, on a read-only basis or on a read and write, depending on what the mother chooses. So with the eRedBook, we have also worked very closely with the NHS, and we are in England. There is the NHS login, which is a way citizens are identified and can interact with the health services. So we have made sure that we are part of that NHS. In fact, we're the first company to use NHS login for a personal held record. And we're also the first company that has national events management as a personal held record. We're very keen and actually stringent on standards, so that data that is flown, we use fire messaging as our standard approach to passing information from other systems into the eRedBook, and it's on a push and publish type basis. There's a lot beneath the surface with the eRedBook, so we have a number of things to pull together, so we have to make sure it's engaging and that the mums want to use it and it's meaningful as an app on your phone. The mums just download it from the App Store, and they can get vouched by being part of the NHS login. So the actual process of getting eRedBook as a mum is not too arduous, and it then easily links the child to the mum when the child is born. But below the surface, there's a whole network and platform of interactions that we're develop and work with other suppliers to make sure that the standards are achieved. We have such ambition for our personal health record because we do strongly believe that it's the way forward. We strongly believe that what happens to you in your early years is critical for how you live the rest of your life and can impact, and things can come out later on in life, both health and physically and mentally, that have come through that. So we want to take this whole personal health record further forward. We're actively looking at a product for the children in schools, and in fact a lot of the eRedBook already takes the child up to 19, but we want to look at a record for the 5 to 13-year-olds, which picks up more of the healthy eating, healthy living type interactions, and supports the schools and the education, as well as obviously the parents and child. We want to, in our plans, we're looking at the 16 to 20 plus application as well, because again we feel that that's when the mental health issues may come through, knowing what's happened to you, taking responsibility for your health and well-being, knowing what immunisations you've had is critical, and it starts to put a good emphasis for the individual if they are then taking responsibility. So in my dream, I would love it if every child, when they were at school, had an eRedBook that they had on their own phone, so that they were beginning to take responsibility, that they had signed up to NHS login, and that they had a life book that accompanied them throughout life. Sometimes it won't be important to them, but other times it will be bringing information that's key to help them live a long and healthy life.
Okay, very good. Dave had some interesting things to say. You guys want to comment on what she had to say at all?
It is very nice. It needs to be, it's your life book, meaning it should start from preconception, during pregnancy, all the information, then from birth up to death, the information, so that the family should also use it at the next generation and next generation,
Yeah.
and so on. So the full family history will be available in It's Your Life book, a type of red book. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew a guy and he was in his 30s, and he had some personal stuff happen when he was a child, and the pediatrician has done an incredible job, and he now lives in rural Ireland.
Yeah.
And he struggles with a whole host of problems.
Right.
But he doesn't see them as medical problems because he just put that into the past. And so he feels that he's a failure.
Right.
And it was this realization of, that just talking with him and saying, you're like this miracle kid. You've survived that.
Yes.
And now you're trying to benchmark yourself against everybody else. And it's like, you're not being fair to yourself. And I think when we have pediatricians doing such amazing stuff, but it just stops the minute you walk out of the hospital.
And then with the genetic gene markers, genetic information, it will be very helpful so that we know what genes are affected, what are happening, what is passed on, and so on and so forth. Yeah. I think this is the way forward.
He was so scared of meeting women because how would I talk about these things? How would I tell them what goals can I have in life? No one had sat down and talked to him as an adult. And actually, it's very, very hard for healthcare services to start budgeting for things like this because, this isn't a primary concern, but the lifestyle choices this person will make because of the lack of information should be looked at. Our duty of care to that patient doesn't stop once we fix them. It's the psychological journey of their life. And I think
you need to take them with you. Yes. Correct.
And I think this book allows the scaling of these things.
Yes,
if you have 100,000 patients in the NHS registered through that, maybe more, and then you look into that and you say, well, now we can make a video about this, and we've got a way of reaching it directly to the people who are affected by these issues. And so you can put content that is better than a GP consult and just push it to the 10,000 patients that directly applies to. You know, you had a colostomy when you were a child. This is what it means for your ongoing. Here's a video from the NHS that they've probably made already. So I think just, you know, in terms, this is how Amazon finds what you'd like to buy. People who bought this product might like to buy this.
Yes, I get it. Yeah.
When we have eRedBook, when we have children who are now grown up and they had these problems, now we can put tailored information to them in ways where they expect to find it, you know. So that was nice, yeah.
Okay, we're still downloading the video, Dave.
So we might have Jill come in and discuss with us.
Oh, okay. Is she going to jump on the panel?
Yeah, she might.
Oh, cool. Great, great. She's out in the site there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it'll be a few minutes before that video is downloaded.
There's actually a digital.
But Dave, I like this setup. Very informal, talking, you know, telling about information. This is great. This is great.
This conference is actually taking place downstairs. It's called Recent Developments in AI and Digital Health 2020, the Royal Society of Medicine meeting organized by its digital health section.
Well, let's take a walk down there.
You have to pay hundreds of pounds to watch their live stream.
No, this is an important topic. Yeah.
But look, there's nothing here on something like coronavirus. There's nothing about the social media angle of AI. What you saw there with Twitter is AI in medicine. It's driving people into psychological distress. It's driving people into uncertainty about their future and making people nihilistic. And, you know, maybe what we'll do is we'll play the fake news, John Rappaport.
Yeah, okay, I can get that. Okay, let me.
This is what I think is going to be the defining. So social media is what's going to define this virus. Right, whether it goes pandemic and we see huge death numbers, we will see that it was driven and it was motivated by.
Maybe the social media will help to calm it down as well. If people know what they are supposed to do to prevent catching or passing on to other people by this social media, we will be helping.
Yeah, maybe these scary videos are helping people follow orders that they've been given by governments.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, there's John Rappaport. Okay. Hold on.
One of the things I found interesting is the NHS tried to make a digital doctor, an AI doctor. And they've spent loads of the taxpayer money, the NHS budget to make this. Right? And I was thinking, why didn't they just let the AI doctor the NHS made, why didn't they let it just take the weekend off and think about coronavirus and tell us what we should do?
I didn't know about AI doctor.
Well, I don't think it exists. I don't think
Are you ready? Are you ready for John?
We are, yeah. Let's go.
Okay, we'll start with John. Are you ready? Okay.
John's 20 years with no fake news. So
why don't you give it an introduction to John, Dave? Yeah.
So before we knew what fake news was, John was writing about it. He was an investigative journalist who, you know, turned.
Okay, he's an investigative journalist from where?
San Diego, working in San Diego, and he came across some realizations in his work that.
What does he do now? Is he an information officer for someone, or what does he do?
So he's an independent guy.
Oh, independent. Okay.
I'll read it out. He's a graduate of Amherst College and has worked as a freelance investigative reporter for over 30 years. He's the author of 3 explosive collections, The Matrix Revealed, Exit from the Matrix, and Power Outside the Matrix. And he's written articles on politics, health, media, culture, and art for the LA Weekly, Spin Magazine, STEM, Village Voice, Nexus, CBS Health Watch, and other newspapers and magazines in the US.
Okay.
In 1982, the LA Weekly submitted his name for a Pulitzer Prize for his interview with the president of El Salvador University, where the military had taken over the campus. John has hosted, produced, and written radio programs and segments in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. He's also appeared as a guest on over 200 radio and television programs, including ABC's Nightline, Tony Brown's Journal, PBS, and Hard Copy. In 1996, John started the Great Boycott against 8 corporate chemical giants, Monsanto, Dow, DuPont, Bayer, Hoesch, Rohn, Pollock, Imperial Chemical Industries, and SIPA CG. The boycott continues to operate today. John has lectured extensively all around the US on the question, who runs the world and what can we do about it? Since 2000, John has operated largely away from the mainstream media because, as he puts it, my research was not friendly to the conventional media. Over the last 30 years, John independent researchers encompassed such areas as deep politics, conspiracies, alternative health, the potential of the human imagination, mind control, the medical cartel, symbology, and solutions to the takeover of the planet by hidden elites. I think what we'd also learn a lot from is John's in his 80s, and he's a really smart guy.
Okay, we're ready for John?
So this is a chat I have with John.
Okay, here we go.
At the mHealth for mHealth Insight today, and we're discussing coronavirus. John, could you introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Sure. I've been an investigative reporter freelance for 38 years now, written for publications in the US and Europe on many issues, political, cultural, but also with a heavy emphasis on medical. And so I've covered a number of past epidemics, shall we call them, and have come to my own conclusions, and we'll be talking about some of that today.
Okay. Look, the reason why this has happened is we've had the world's biggest mobile event has been cancelled because of coronavirus, and the idea is that bringing 110,000 people together would be, with the understanding that we currently have about how infectious this disease is, and with the predominance of Chinese companies in this area in the equipment manufacturing for telcos. So this is a problem. People want to try and understand the different perspectives and the opportunities for mobile. We're seeing some new laws being passed quite urgently in places like Taiwan. They're looking at a new law which would bring in perhaps $100,000 fine, up to $100,000 fine, and up to 3 years jail for discussing or sharing what's considered by the government to be fake news. This means that unless you're in total agreement with your government, as a doctor, as a patient, as a carer, you're in a predicament because you're going to face potentially, having to go along with this, stopping your business, stopping your activities on lockdown indeterminate amount of time until the government's happy. There's also going to be obviously some stuff we're seeing in China coming out is that they're looking into the WePay and the WeChat communications that citizens have had to identify them as people who might be affected by it. So not only do they have your location from your use of a mobile phone, but this is causing major problems. It's going to be a major citizen rights issue, and if it sweeps across the globe, as we're seeing this, I mean, we could all be living in China quicker than we thought we were. Is there anything you think on that line, and what sort of advice do you think we should take?
Well, you've got to say what you believe is the truth and what you've discovered to be the truth. Otherwise, why would you be in, for me, the journalism business? And if you were a doctor, why would you be trying to help patients? Otherwise, see, this whole idea of censorship is people can't tell the difference between truth and lies, so the government has to step in and decide, which is a false formula and equation, and amounts to censorship and what we would call in America the abrogation of the First Amendment, the right to free speech. So, for example, if I say, well, so-and-so epidemic turns out to be a dud, and the government disagrees with me, if we had the same law as, say, Taiwan is contemplating now, I could be thrown into jail and fined $100,000 just for saying that. Well, this is astonishing and astounding. And unfortunately, when you have free speech, you have to assume that the people that you disagree with also have a right to free speech. It's easy to say those who are on my side can say anything they want to, but those who disagree with me, or those who I consider to be crazy or kooks or conspiracy theorists or whatever, they have to be censored and even maybe locked up. That's pure insanity.
Yeah. So what do you think? We should be working, medics, telecom operators. I mean, the power at the moment really seems to be with the telecom operators. They can analyze the data, and whatever they conclude, the medics are going to have to go along with. I mean, we're seeing already things like the antibody tests to say that these viruses have been detected, and the accuracy with which, for we're told is a new virus, the accuracy with which and the speed with which they've got this these tests out for this particular virus seem very very advanced. I mean, our own government here in Ireland hasn't been able to put out a reasonably produced video telling people what's happening, but in the same time, apparently they've got an accurate test. In the UK, for example, they say they've done 5,000 tests and they found nine patients or something like that. That's current information. And you're thinking, with a new test of that type, most people who understand about the testing procedures and how few people can do them and the skill set needed, most people would say, they'll be getting, 10 times that amount maybe in false positive, false negatives. So
this is a traditional problem with antibody tests. It's nothing new, really. And here's exactly what I'm talking about, a piece of information which some people would consider very controversial. I've been researching antibody tests since 1987 as a reporter. And I saw how in 1984, the so-called science was turned on its head. Previous to that, if a patient tested positive on an antibody test for a virus, for example, in most cases, this would be considered a good sign. In other words, the patient had contacted the virus, or his immune system had, and had successfully dealt with it. Or at the very least, you couldn't say anything about a prognosis, only that there had been contact with the immune system and the virus. But then all of a sudden, antibody tests were taken to mean positive tests that the patient was ill or was going to become ill. And there were reasons for turning this whole thing upside down, but they weren't good reasons, certainly not across the board, and they persisted to this day. So you're going to have huge numbers of people around the world testing positive, so-called, for the coronavirus, and the tests are completely worthless. And not only that, they're contraindicated. In other words, if anything is true, it's just the opposite of what the test purports to claim. Well, what is the doctor going to do if he knows this is true? Suppose he stands up on his hind legs and he says, wait a minute, I'm not going to do these tests because I know there are problems. In fact, in addition to what I've just said, there's the whole problem of cross reactions in which the test registers positive for factors that have nothing to do with a given virus. They just have to do with other behaviors. The patient had alcohol the night before, whatever. So what is that doctor now going to face? He has something to talk to his conscience about, seriously. These are not small matters, and they can't be brushed off. And I found time and time again in my research over the years where a mainstream researcher would say to me off the record, I can't get involved in this debate because if I do, my career is over, or I'm going to be blacklisted, or I'm never going to be able to publish again. So I'm going to have to take a pass on this one and live to fight another day. Well, I can only say to your audience that these were very serious issues I was talking about with these researchers. For example, is a given virus the cause actually of a given disease? when there's an enormous consensus that it is. And this researcher is basically telling me between the lines, no, it's never been proven, but I'm not going to stick my neck out.
Okay, so you've reported on before on previous dud epidemics. I believe we're never going to be. I believe we're at a point here where maybe 200 million people are on lockdown. The state is telling them where they're allowed to go. I think that's never happened in history before. I think that we also have a time where we've got the vast majority of the population, using social media, but also 99% plus using mobile. So across all age groups now, across all the world, we now have people who are mobile connected. We're also seeing voice coming in. I mean, a lot of the innovations that were going to be showcased at Mobile World Congress include the sort of move to voice. We're seeing Alexas, we're seeing all these things in people's homes, live mics on mobile phones. Is it going to be impossible for doctors to even say off the record to people anymore? You know, you're talking as an investigative journalist. Do you think that these doctors are just going to dry up in coming out? And we're just
I think a lot of them will, because they don't know who's listening. They don't know who's recording. They don't know what's going on. They have an idea, perhaps, but they can't guarantee it. So they stick, there's an orthodoxy of opinion on any subject. All right, so somebody's going to say to themselves, some sort of professional, I better be extremely careful about what I say and do, and stick as close to the orthodoxy as possible on every single issue, because who knows who might be recording me and put it out on the internet, or who might report me to government authorities, depending on which country I live in. This is an insupportable, insane kind of situation. Because, again, what's happening here is that socially and culturally, a whole new kind of identity is being carved out to people or for people, which is extreme conformity, more than has ever existed before on a mass basis when it comes to social, political issues of every kind. And so, I mean, I've dealt with this in my own career in the sense of I'll pitch a story to an editor at a publication. He'll say, we don't want to touch that. Well, why not? Well, it's just not the sort of thing that we would do. And I would say, you mean it's on the wrong side of the political spectrum? And he would say, well, yeah. And I say, well, suppose what I'm saying, though, is true. Does that matter? And he'd say, look, don't get me involved in this kind of discussion. I don't want to. I'm just telling you, we're not interested. And also, he implies, you probably shouldn't bother coming back to us with any pitches for new articles, because we see that you are not the kind of character we want to deal with. You should be smart enough to know which side of the political spectrum we are on before you even come up with an idea for an article. So this is the sort of thing that's been the case for me since 1982. But now, as you say, with social media, mobile devices, and so on, it's much, much worse.
And what do you think? I mean, is there something you're seeing from past dud epidemics that we could learn and we could go into this? Or is it just about the general stuff of privacy? And
No. There's plenty of specifics. Here's a story. Your audience will probably remember 2009, swine flu, another epidemic that was going to, overtake the world, and all sorts of ominous predictions were coming out of the World Health Organization and so on. So listen to this story very carefully, because it's astonishing, really, in its detail. The summer of 2009 in the United States, the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, is announcing that there are thousands of cases of swine flu in the U.S. But star investigative reporter for CBS, Cheryl Atkinson, discovers that secretly the CDC has actually stopped counting cases of swine flu in the U.S. This is unheard of because the mandate of the CDC is to count and report every week. That's what they do. So she says to herself, well, why did they stop counting? She investigates and she finds out. I interviewed her. I have the interviews on my website, No More Fake News. But CBS also published material on this. The reason the CDC stopped counting swine flu cases in the summer of 2009 was that the overwhelming percentage of tests from tissue samples of patients coming back from labs showed no sign of swine flu or any other kind of flu. Meanwhile, the CDC is telling people in the United States there are thousands of cases of swine flu. It's very dangerous, and you have to take the experimental vaccine. You should take it. All right, so she writes the story. She runs it by her boss at CBS and other people there, editors, legal experts, and so on. Everybody gives a green light. CBS publishes the story on their website, print article. Her boss is telling her, this is the most original story I've seen about the epidemic. It's fantastic, blah, 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 blah. So the next step for CBS would be to put it on their evening television broadcast, which is, much more powerful and reaches many more people. So Cheryl is moving in that direction, and all of a sudden the whole thing is shut down. Boom. No CBS affiliate television station in the United States will handle the story whatsoever. Not only that, but CBS is not going to cover this angle, so to speak, on the story anymore. It's dead in the water, gone, as if it never existed. Plus, no other major mainstream outlet in the United States, or to my knowledge in the world, picks up on Cheryl's story, a blockbuster that was published on the CBS News website. But 3 weeks later, roughly after they published their story, I found at webmd.com a story which I've cited at No More Fake News, that the CDC estimated that in the summer of 2009, at the height of the, quote, swine flu epidemic, get this, there were 22 million cases of swine flu in the United States. All right, so this is the kind of thing that I've been dealing with in these, what I call dud epidemics, SARS, West Nile, Zika, Ebola, etc., etc. There are commonalities in each case, serious commonalities, which defy and rebuke the official statement and characterization of the so-called epidemics. And I've written about this extensively and talked about it. Mainstream outlets have not picked up on any of this and don't want to and will not. That's before this new level of censorship that we're now talking about with, say, Taiwan, or the explosion of mobile devices and recording people and putting out, recordings on the internet and so forth. So that's kind of the background here that we're dealing with.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk to you about corporate crime and where you think that's orientated. It was a few years ago. So I've been attending Mobile World Congress since before it was Mobile World Congress. And I helped them organise what came off it, a mobile healthcare industry event, where we just took mobile people. But 3 years ago, they decided they wouldn't run anymore a mobile health component on the conference track. And it was on the last year that I received an email telling me I could bring an armed bodyguard with me to the conference.
Really?
So I thought quite a weird email, but it was because they were bringing such important people from heads of state and things like this. But I was thinking, we've gone from using this as a tool to promote positive healthcare, And now we're in a thing where people have to go to learn about stuff like that. You know, they might be bringing an armed bodyguard to the room. So it was quite weird that it was scrapped from it. So where's your idea on where this corporate crime is? Who benefits from this stuff? Why are they trying to do this, and what's the ultimate objective, and what can people do to push back against this with their elected representatives?
Okay, well, there's many elements to the idea of corporate crimes. I'll give you a basic couple of examples. SARS, another dud epidemic, 2003. The final tally on this is official, was 800 deaths roughly in the whole world of 7 billion people. And yet again, everybody was warned at the outset, this is a big one, it's coming, it's going to cause tremendous chaos, illness, damage, and so forth. World Health Organization put out an advisory against flying into Toronto, which resulted in the city merchants losing $2-3 billion. I was in touch with an activist who was trying to put up a lawsuit against the World Health Organization in the aftermath, excuse me, and it fell apart. Anyway, two things happened there. One is Frank Plummer, who was a microbiologist for the World Health Organization in Winnipeg, started telling reporters that fewer and fewer SARS patients actually had the coronavirus, which was the reputed cause of the disease, and that actually this number was approaching zero, which is just an incredible admission. In other words, the reputed new cause of this emerging pandemic was not being seen in the patients who were diagnosed with this new disease, which means that the whole thing completely fell apart if you just simply listened to what he had to say. But nobody did, including the press. They printed one story about it as if it was kind of a curio that you might find if you walked into an antique shop. Where did this lamp come from? And then they were completely silent after that. Okay, so put that together with this. Where did SARS reputedly start? Guangdong in China. So you go into the areas where it was said to have originated in 2003, and what do you find? You find that this was an area maybe number one in the world for recycling electronic waste. The shipment of computers and high-tech components and so forth that needed to be recycled. Huge tonnage was sent to this area, and workers at $1.50 an hour were working in factories to take apart computers and motherboards and so on and so forth in acid baths, breathing incredibly toxic fumes, SARS, acute respiratory symptoms. They were breathing several different kinds of toxic fumes. Some of this electronic waste and huge tonnage of garbage was actually just sent out the door of these factories, got into the rivers, which were heavily, heavily polluted. Drinking water actually had to be brought into this area because people couldn't drink the water out of the tap. It was a horrendous environmental situation and a corporate situation because there were companies who were employing all these workers to risk their lives to take apart these electronic components, huge quantities of them, breathe in the toxic fumes, acid baths, etc., lead poisoning, on and on and on and on. Well, this had to be hidden from the public. It had to be covered up. The illness that resulted from this had to be explained away in some other fashion that would be acceptable to the world community, to the world health community, to the world medical community, and thus we had a story about a new coronavirus and a new syndrome called SARS coming from this place And then, as I just said, we flash forward to Canada, and we find one of the leading microbiologists of the World Health Organization moving off the reservation suddenly and talking to the press and saying, hey, we can't even find the coronavirus in these SARS patients at all. Okay, well, that's an incredible story. There's corporate crimes being covered up by the cover story of a virus. I mean, this is a classic covert op that you would expect an intelligence agency to launch. Cover story, the real truth hidden. The cover story gains credence and widespread publication, and nobody goes back to the beginning of where it all started to investigate. Maybe something else was responsible for all of this. Well, I could go on and on. Just a quick footnote on here, which I could talk about for 6 hours. You look at certain parts of Africa, and what you're looking at is people starving, people hungry, people dying of that, and people dying of chronic dehydration and chronic diarrhea, people dying of contaminated water supplies, sewage pumped directly into the drinking water, farmlands, good fertile growing land stolen from the people by giant agri-corporations over a very long period of time, extreme poverty, etc., etc. It's industrial corporations taking over areas and polluting the soil and the water with extremely toxic compounds, etc., etc., etc. Expired medical drugs, unrefrigerated, being shipped into these areas to treat people, etc., etc., etc. Okay, these corporate crimes and government crimes also need to be covered up massively. Well, how are they covered up? Suddenly, all we hear about from this area are stories about the virus, which is destroying everybody on the continent if you accept it at face value. The virus is doing this, the virus is doing that. We've never seen anything like this before. It's all the virus, the virus, the virus. No, it isn't. And I learned this early on when a very reputed health worker out of Haiti, whom I was talking to about the virus, put me firmly in my place. This was 1987. She said, John, she said, frankly, you have no clue what's going on down here. Not a clue. I'm on the ground. I see the extreme poverty and destruction. I see the corporations taking over fertile farmland and stealing it from the people. I see 20 people living in a shack with no running water or electricity. I see the sewage being pumped directly into the drinking water. I see people being dying of dehydration and chronic diarrhea, and medical people refusing to give them simple packs that would at least supply some of the missing electrolytes. Instead, they're being treated with antibiotics, which is even causing more problems, et cetera, et cetera. She said, you really want to find out what's happening, you better investigate more thoroughly and stop just telling me, quote, it's a virus. So there are some of the corporate crimes that are being covered up here.
Yeah.
And as you say, if you want to go to, a conference where you're going to have heads of state sitting around listening to what I'm just saying, maybe you should bring a bodyguard. I don't know. I'd be happy to be at one of these conferences and say, let's all pretend we have a timeout here, boys, and let's just listen to some on-the-ground reports of what's really happening around the world, health-wise, people, and why, just in case you might be interested for a moment in the truth rather than cover stories, and then you can go home and do whatever it is you're going to do.
So to just wrap up on a bit more positive, patients are coming in, they're pretty much terrified by this. Doctors are reporting, how do we manage these patients with their concerns? They're talking things like mass extinctions, they're watching too much news principally. Perhaps they should just turn off from this sensationalization that's going on and look more at websites that have got different opinions and are more positive and can show them over the history of what's happened with these epidemics where, our societies are quite modern and they're able to quite easily cope with them,
I believe that's true. Why not? I mean, I've always thought that history matters. So if you look at previous cases of these so-called epidemics and you educate yourself about what actually happened, then you begin to think in a different way. You're not frozen and paralyzed by fear. You're not inclined to take the latest tidbit of fear-mongering and accept it as, God-sent truth. You begin to feel a little more calm and relaxed and think for yourself, and that's a good thing. I think that should happen more and more.
A psychiatrist I work with, he's come up with an idea, notepad, and just total digital detox, where they don't use mobile phones, they don't watch TV, they don't use the internet, and just diary how they're feeling every day, so that they can see, within a few days away from screens that are really animated and really well designed to engage you in what they're trying to tell you about, these people start feeling better. Do you ever advise anyone things like that, or see any results?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I used to watch the news every night until I started screaming at the screen and could feel my, face flushing and my blood pressure rising and rising. And then I decided, well, if I want the kind of news they're going to offer me, I'd rather read about it. Because then I can stop, I can pause, I can analyze, I can think. The thing with the screen is it just goes by. And as soon as you begin to even start to think about what is happening in front of your eyes, they're on to another story. We're talking about the news. And then if you can gather your wits again, we're on to another story. And so you don't have time. So it's all defensive and reactive. So yeah, taking a serious break, maybe a permanent break from television news, it's like breaking an addiction. You're going to feel better, but you're also probably going to feel worse too. And you've got to see your way through withdrawal symptoms and coming to a new sense of what you yourself think, what you yourself can discover. You have a life of your own that's independent from the news. What a revelation. And, take it from there.
One of the things I noticed he does is he relates to the patients how empathetic they are. And essentially, this is what is tripping them up. So the reason they're responding so harshly to seeing tragic things on a TV is because they're so wedded to it and they can't undo it. It's going into their eyes, being processed by their brain quicker than they can think. And so undoing it is kind of impossible. It's like it's happening right in front of them.
You reminded me of a story when I was a kid, and television first came into existence, television news. So, it was a fantastic thing every night. The family would sit down and watch the news. So one of these items would come on and my mother would say, "Oh my God, that's terrible." And then 5 minutes later, my father would say, "Oh my God, that's horrible." And, a year, 2, 3 years, we'd continue to watch the news until finally one night I said, you keep saying how horrible this is. So why do you watch it? Right? And they sort of turned to me in anger because they were addicts and I was questioning their addiction. And they said, "Well, it's important. It's important." I said, "Yeah, but obviously you're quite disturbed at what's happening. I'm younger, so I have a more carefree attitude, but you're reacting as if, everybody is just falling by the way. It's important. We have to watch it." And they just continue to watch it and react in that way. Well, they needed to go through withdrawal symptoms.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before wrap up?
No, I think that's fine. People can read my material at nomorefakenews.com. I appreciate your time. And like I said, this is a 6 or 7 hour conversation that, could be continued indefinitely. But I think people get the idea here that thinking for oneself, investigating off the beaten track, going to the origin of these so-called epidemics and seeing what actually was going on is always a good thing. And it's, you have a right and I would say as a duty, to investigate and research on your own and come to your own conclusions rather than accepting all official statements. So I thank you for your time.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you very much for joining us.
You know, Dave, I think you're inventing a new form of internet journalism, curated medical news. Do you know what I'm saying? Let me unmute you there, Dave.
I'm on.
Yeah, curated medical news.
Yeah, we'll do it every few weeks with you.
Well, you know, because what John said, you know, you gotta deal with the central issues, and certainly nowadays with Dr. Google, all patients are going to Dr. Google, but I think you can provide a direction for their searches on Dr. Google, etc.
Yeah, I mean, but the doctors are sitting there. The doctors are sitting there dealing.
Hold on, I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah, so the doctors are dealing with this all the time, and you get to the point. When do you see voices like that at medical conferences?
Yeah, that's true. You never see them. Never see them. Yeah, yeah.
So someone who's got a conflicting view, we're supposed to be in a science industry, but everyone's on the consensus.
Yeah.
And then we're talking, well, patients are all confused by this and are finding well-spoken, well-presented, well-background, highly educated, investigative journalists who've done their homework and are telling us a different story.
Yeah.
So how, as a doctor, can I go to that person? And the problem is when you go to a government doctor, they're under confined to talk in a way that's not.
Well, I think John, he suggests going to Wuhan and seeing what's going on, right? That's what he's saying, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think if we're not allowed to go there,
I wonder if there's any way we can do. I don't know. I'm sure China wouldn't want to do that, right?
I don't think there's anyone brave enough out there.
Yeah.
Or stupid enough, you know.
Right.
And can they do it? You know.
Yeah. Well, that's true. If it was in Ireland, would there be reporters everywhere? But you know.
Listen,
China's a different story. China's a different story. You can't easily travel.
We've got loads of problems in our healthcare system, but one of the best things we've got is we've got the ability to bring people from all around the world together on a platform like yours to discuss them.
Right.
And in between the cracks, you know, people can have opinions, people can have views, and people can air them. And inside that, you know, new parts can be.
Something will come out. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Curated medical news, Dave. Okay, who do you want next? What do you want to do next?
Who you got ready? What did you
think?
Okay,
hold on.
Well,
yeah.
Let's ask Professor Lingham what he thinks of no fake news.
Okay, sure.
View of the state of the art. Yeah, fine.
Nice.
Let me. I downloaded the video. Let me see if I got it here.
Yeah, and obviously nofakenews.com. Get more.
We've done that video. Oh, man, I don't know. Dr. Tulenko?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kate, shall I do the intro? That'd be nice.
Okay. Let me put her on. Okay.
1 second. I'll just do her intro. I'll explain who Kate is.
Okay. I'll just get her ready. Hold on. Let me go to my YouTube channel. Yeah, this is informal. I like it.
Yeah, okay. So.
Hold on, let me get Dr. Tulenko. Yeah, you can start her introduction if you want.
Yeah.
And talk about her.
So Kate is a physician and global health industry specialist with broad experience in developed and developing country settings. Kate has globally recognized expertise in health workforce and health systems, and has served on expert panels for the World Health Organization, World Bank, Institute of Medicine, Global Business Schools Network, the US Agency for International Development, USAID, PREPFAR, Hope Street Group, and the African Union. Kate currently serves as CEO of Corus Health, a global health workforce services firm. Corus Health provides recruitment, staffing, training, HR management, tele-HR, and which is a bit like this stuff, really, isn't it? I didn't know that HR was going tele, so that's cool. And quality improvement, and provides advisory services to governments, hospitals, health professionals, schools, health professional associations, and regulators. Previously, Kate worked as Vice President of Health Systems Innovation for IntraHealth International, a global health nonprofit. And Kate led IntraHealth's work on new private sector business, and other responsibilities included digital health, global health security, facility data, and health economics. Kate served as the director of USAID's Capacity Plus project, which is the world's largest global workforce program, and was responsible for increasing production of healthcare workers, including physicians and nurses, and for developing and expanding systems that increase healthcare worker retention, productivity, and quality of care. Kate represented the World Bank in Asia and Africa and worked with country governments to provide technical assistance and financing for projects on health systems efficiency, health resources, health, public-private partnerships, and water and sanitation. Kate served as coordinator for the Africa Health Workforce Program, working in Africa to help solve the global healthcare worker shortage. The program achievements there include expanding new worker training, increased worker retention in underserved areas, and maximizing worker productivity. So we'll go to Kate. Kate's also on Twitter. You'll see her there with the hashtag for this event, mHealth.
Hey, here we go.
Hello, this is Dr. Katel Tulenko with Corus Health, a global health workforce firm. And thanks so much for joining us on this conference. It really is such a shame that the Mobile World Congress was canceled, but it probably was the right thing to do. Getting 100,000 people together during the time of an outbreak, I think would not have been a good choice. But we have found a good solution in having these teleconferences. And I hope that you all can ask me questions either through a process later or through emailing me or contacting me through my information, which is on my presentation. And you should receive my presentation slides later on. So I'm going to first talk about the dimensions of the challenge with coronavirus from a perspective of health workers and caregivers. So we know that, of course, there are about 79,000 people who've been infected by coronavirus, and about 2,400 people have died. Around 1,700 healthcare workers have been infected and 7 have died, unfortunately. And we know that there's a shortage of personal protective equipment. That's the equipment that healthcare workers and others use to keep themselves from getting infected. This includes gloves, gowns, face masks, eye shields, and booties as well. And there's a global shortage of these because unfortunately countries have not stockpiled the PPE that they need to. We also know that healthcare workers are reusing PPE, which they're not meant to be reused, and people are using trash bags as booties, which you might not be very effective or may be dangerous because of course they can slip and fall. Because the regular PPE booties actually have traction on the soles of the PPE. And we know that healthcare workers, in order to reduce the amount of times they have to take the PPE off, they're wearing adult diapers, so they don't have to use the bathroom. They're also avoiding eating and drinking during their shift. So it's extremely difficult working conditions for the healthcare workers. We also know healthcare workers are often afraid to go home because they don't want to infect their families and they don't want neighbors to get angry with their family. We actually saw during the Ebola epidemic, families of healthcare workers actually getting kicked out of their houses because neighbors were afraid that the healthcare worker would bring the infection to the neighborhood. We also know that in China, 760 million people currently have their movements restricted in one way or another. Maybe they're only able to go out of the house once a day, maybe once every 3 days. This, of course, has impact on caregiving. We estimate currently that there are millions of family caregivers in China and elsewhere. So these are people who, are symptomatic, but people don't know if they have coronavirus. Maybe they're not sick enough to go to a hospital. Maybe they're very sick, but they're avoiding going to a hospital for a number of different reasons. We also know that there's a spread of misinformation. For example, people are spreading misinformation that drinking diluted bleach can help with coronavirus, or that taking a very hot bath can cure you of coronavirus. Now we know that this is not true, and these practices actually could potentially be harmful. And so how can mHealth help? How can both the telecom community as well as NGOs and other development bodies help through mHealth? So that's what we'll talk about today. So we're going to talk about 5 main groups of needs. These groups of needs are coordinating, educating, reporting and tracking, supporting, and sourcing. It's important to keep in mind that a crisis such as this is actually a huge opportunity for the uptake of new mHealth technologies. We saw this during the Ebola outbreak. West Africa had not been using a great deal of payments, of electronic payments, but because there were great concerns about moving currency around, during the epidemic and spreading the virus on currency or just general security issues, it was really an opportunity to roll out payments. With the epidemic now over, the payment system is still in place. So the first need is coordinating. The health facilities and other groups need to coordinate health worker shifts, coordinate ambulance teams, where they're going, what sectors they're covering. You need to coordinate volunteers, not just healthcare volunteers, but volunteers that are going out and, spraying, some of the agents to kill the virus, or volunteers that are making sure that only the people who live in a community are able to enter. And also the donation of goods needs to be coordinated. In the area of education, we have family caregiver education and also health worker education. Under family caregiver education, I've provided a link to the CDC family guidelines, which is very helpful. But keep in mind, it needs to be adjusted to local needs. For example, the CDC guidelines talk about not sharing a bathroom, but we know in many of our communities, there is no bathroom in a family's home. It's shared with other families, or if there is a bathroom, there's only one bathroom. So it's not feasible to say don't share a bathroom. And also it's important to educate families and caregivers on patient rights and responsibilities, and on rights and responsibilities of PUI, which is persons under investigation. And this is sort of the epidemiological term for people who may have a disease and are under investigation for that. And they have rights and responsibilities. Also, we need to address misinformation directly. So often I think people think it's just that it's our responsibility just to get the right information out. Wash your hands, use hand gel. But we also have to directly combat misinformation, to say it's incorrect to drink diluted bleach. It's incorrect that taking a hot bath will cure you of coronavirus. And I've provided a link here to WHO's Mythbusters website, which is a wonderful website that just addresses these issues head on. Also, another opportunity for mHealth is to address the xenophobia that we're seeing cropping up outside of China, either anti-Chinese sentiment or anti-Asian sentiment. And then for educating healthcare workers, one of the big opportunities is retraining them in how to put on and take off PPE, or what is called donning and doffing of PPE. Even though most healthcare workers have been trained in this, it's really actually a very complex process, and everyone needs a refresher. It's actually very difficult to take PPE off without infecting yourself. And also, healthcare workers need the criteria and protocols for people under investigation. How high a temperature does someone need to be of interest? What's done with them when you identify them? What type of information do you obtain from them? Where do you send them? And also, healthcare workers need to be taught the diagnostic criteria for coronavirus. A couple of weeks ago, you saw in China a huge jump in the number of cases, and this was because China changed the case definition. They had originally been using a definition that someone had to have a lab positive test to be called a coronavirus patient. But because the delays were just racking up, they decided to go to a clinical case definition, that someone with a fever and respiratory symptoms who had had contact with someone from the Hubei area would be defined as a coronavirus case. So it's important that healthcare workers be aware of these diagnostic criteria and these case definitions. Healthcare workers also need to be diagnosed on the testing procedures. How do you test someone for coronavirus? Is it a pharyngeal swab? Is it nasal swab? Is it nasal lavage? So people need to know that. How do you collect it? How do you store the sample? Where do you send the sample? Healthcare workers also need to be trained on their rights and responsibilities, their right to not be infected, or other responsibilities that they might have. Healthcare workers need to know the treatment guidelines for coronavirus. For example, antivirals, convalescent plasma, chloroquine, and other potential treatments. Also, healthcare workers need to be educated on supportive treatments such as IV fluids, what lab tests to follow regularly, what ventilator settings are best for people with coronavirus. And also, healthcare workers need to be educated on how to speak with patients in the general public and how to educate patients in the general public. The next area is reporting and tracking. So caregivers need mobile applications to help report symptoms, temperature. We know in many cases people have to report their temperature twice a day. And so this is for persons under investigation. Also, healthcare workers need to know about how they can report and track their patients, and also how they can communicate with patient families. One big mistake that was made in the Ebola epidemic is often families would drop their loved one off at a hospital, and really there would be no communication until either the person was released well or released in a body bag. And so there has to be preferably daily communication between healthcare workers and patient families for updates. And the telecom community can definitely help greatly with this. Also in the category of supporting, healthcare workers and family caregivers have incredible needs, especially mental health needs. We saw this particularly in the West African Ebola outbreak and the SARS outbreak. There's better data from the SARS outbreak. One study showed that 10% of healthcare workers had severe mental health consequences, basically post-traumatic stress disorder. Another study showed that 75% of involved healthcare workers had some mental health consequence. But also healthcare workers and caregivers have need for food, need for childcare. Imagine if you're a health worker and you haven't been home for a week. You need someone to help take care of your children. They also have other urgent needs as well that need to be addressed and can be coordinated via mHealth. And then the final category is sourcing. So we need to source or find personal protective equipment, have people donate, have companies donate, get access to some of these strategic supplies. Medicines, China produces around 75% of the raw ingredients for medicines globally, so we're now starting to see shortages of basic medicines. There are other supplies that need to be sourced. For example, many hospitals in China are running out of female sanitary products, hygiene products, because most healthcare workers are women, and they need pads and sanitary napkins for their work. Also, it's important to source additional healthcare workers and volunteers. Often many healthcare workers aren't working full time, and so they can be brought back into the labor market during crisis like this to help out. And also we need to source volunteers, non-medical volunteers. And then as far as the mHealth approaches that can be used, really almost any mHealth approach would be helpful, but I just wanted to mention a few. When we're looking at the family caregiver point of view, many may have low literacy levels, and so voice and video will be very important. And it's possible to make basic videos where you can change the language or quickly change the appearance of the people, to reflect the people in your target country. Toll-free numbers are very helpful. Interactive voice response can be helpful as well to help segment your callers and get them to the appropriate department. Text response numbers can be helpful as well. UNICEF has had a very successful program in Africa with a phone number that youth can text to ask them questions about sex or just general questions, and they either get an artificial intelligence response or a human-based response. And this has been a very successful program. Another option is spaced education, which is a way of educating healthcare workers and other people using frequent small touches. So basically case-based questions that are sent, a couple times a day. And this type of spaced education has been shown to change health worker behavior, improve learning, and improve retention of learning. And I provided a link to a really good website on spaced education. Apps, of course, are helpful. Most healthcare workers have a smartphone. They tend to be relatively high income earners. And another thing that can be helpful is calling groups. Just to give an example, there's a program called Switchboard in Tanzania where if healthcare workers signed up with a specific telecom carrier, they would get free telephone calls to other healthcare workers. And so it facilitated communication between healthcare workers, and it got the Telecom an incredible client base, because healthcare workers, as I mentioned, tend to be relatively highly paid. And I also wanted to mention a couple other things from a user perspective. Make sure when you start designing your mHealth interventions, always involve healthcare workers from the very start, because the way they think, the flow of their work is very different from other sectors. And part of the reason for the general failure of electronic medical records has been because healthcare workers were just not involved in the design of them. And also, your program should promote calm action. I've been doing a number of interviews around the coronavirus, and often I'm asked, is it time to panic? And the answer is it's never time to panic. Panic is never helpful. But people feel the need to do something. And so if your programs can give them something to do, if it's even just, donate money or get on social media with positive messages, that will help people feel much better and also help with the situation. I also wanted to briefly discuss possible partners. There are obvious ones like governments, national, local, healthcare facilities, but also health professional groups. Consider working with the National Infectious Disease Society or the National Nurses Society. Also, another really important group to engage is health professional schools. Medical students, nursing students, pharmacy students really are very fast on uptake of mHealth. And during crises like these, they desperately want to help, so they can be incredible partners. And once they learn your mHealth app, they'll use it for life. So really incredible opportunity there. And my last slide, the last thing I wanted to talk about was just the countries of concern. So these are the countries outside of China that we see the highest cases. That includes South Korea, Japan, Singapore. I've listed India here because it's such a large population that it's a great concern. Indonesia, 5th most populous country in the world. Philippines, large population, challenges with the healthcare system. Iran is starting to have a larger epidemic. Italy, and the two countries I put in red, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, huge population, non-existent public health system, very vulnerable. And then the last country I put here, Venezuela, former wealthy oil state, now really has fallen apart. Their health system is really not doing well, so they're extremely vulnerable. So these are countries that would be high priority for interventions. And so I hope I'll have an opportunity to answer your questions, and look forward to working with you. Take care.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead, Dave. You want to comment on what you had to say?
I think Professor Lingham's got a clinic, a medically express clinic here in Harley Street. And
okay.
So, keeping...
No, we keep a close
as a walk-in.
Yes.
There's some stuff you're doing already?
We have notice everywhere. We have sanitizers everywhere. We encourage people to wash hands, use the sanitizers, and let us know what's going on. And of course, we don't allow people to come if they have suspicion that they might have the disease.
Nice. And then what I saw at UCL again, just the hospital has delivered a new box with plastic walls lining it. And the ambulances that come in now go through a different lane if they have a patient from this. So everything is isolated. There's no cross-contamination.
Proactive, yeah.
Yeah. I think there's lots of that. Now, what we're going to go to next, John's going to get the next video lined up, which is Findara, talking about animations, which is this guy's legendary. But just before that, we're going to go over to Professor Lingham. Now, John, I'm going to give you a question.
Yeah.
You've been a doctor how many years?
Well, I haven't practiced in 15 years, so I'm a little rusty.
Okay. Every single box of medicine has got something in it.
Yeah.
What is it?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Every single box of medicine you've ever seen has got something in it.
Something in it. I don't know.
And Professor Lingham is responsible for it.
A stethoscope? I don't know.
Come on. Box of medicine. You open it up. What comes out?
A piece of paper.
The what?
The piece of paper inside the boxes.
Oh, really?
patient information leaflets. They were
Oh,
Tell a
okay.
story about how it came about, because I think this type of innovation and how it happens is always interesting, because you can't look this up. There's no history on this. People don't write about this stuff.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you had this idea, and then what we'll do is where that's going, because there's a convergence happening between medicines and mobile now,
Mhm.
where people, for example, diabetics today, their mobiles, the reminder. I remember doing a survey in a GP clinic, NHS GP clinic, about 9 years ago, and we found every girl who was on the pill, every woman on the pill in the waiting room was using their mobile phone as a reminder. So without anyone doing a program, people were just using their Nokia phone little alarm, and it was telling them to. And this is a convergence. It's just people are assuming this is just what happens. But in the future, medicines and the information that comes with medicines is going to be tied up with the app you download, which is going to be specific to you, to your medical history, to how you take your medicine, to other medicines you're taking. So let's talk about the history of where this patient information stuff all came from. So.
Maybe it's about 35 years ago. I thought I'll make a directory of all medicines and tablets directory, so that every medicine in the whole world, at least in UK, will be in this directory. And we were going to produce the directory, give it to every practice, give it in libraries, leave it in schools, and people can use it as much as they want, like a telephone directory at that time. And they were going to be sponsored, I thought, by the drug industry, the pharmaceutical industry, because they also were keen for people to know what they are doing, what the medicine is for, and so on and so forth. So I thought I'll write to the Department of Health, to the minister herself. I asked her whether she could give a preface for such a directory. In fact, I was surprised to have a reply back to say, yes, it's interesting, but I should be careful about giving information and promoting a medicine, which I shouldn't be doing. I said, nevertheless, she said, leave it, we need to think about it. The next thing we know is the government, actually it is Britain who first introduced the medicine and tablet information leaflet into every package. Yes. Now my mission is different. There's no need for, see, I take diabetic medication. In every package I get, the leaflet is there, it falls, I never open it and I drop it. But that's because I don't need to know the same information again and again every month. So we think time has come for that to be withdrawn from the package. That will save printing, it will save paper and hassle, and price can be reduced because now you don't need to print and put these things inside the medicine, and all the information can be in the cloud. And the pharmacist who is dispensing the medicine should be asking, do you want more information on this? And point out the cloud where they can get. The person will say, no, I know this. I've been taking it for many, many years. So we could really save the planet by removing this patient information leaflets, which were important 35 years ago, into modern system in which everyone is entitled to have accurate and one information throughout the whole world. Second thing, I'm also been asking, there are boxes with 28 tablets in one box, 30 tablets in one box, and the prescriber doesn't know what to do. So they prescribe 28. If you prescribe 28, when a box is 30, the pharmacist has to open, take 2, put it to a side, and give this. All that needs to be stopped because it will save money and hassle and convenience. So every box should have not more than 28 tablets rather than 30 tablets in a box. That's my second mission at the moment.
Yeah. So what do you think of that, John? Would you like to have medicines like that?
I'm sorry, Dave, I wasn't listening.
Yeah, so I mean, what I see in that is You know, we've got a generation growing up now that think nothing of pressing a button on their phone
Yeah,
and stuff appearing at the door the next day in the post.
correct.
And so for that generation, the idea of caring for seniors, it's going to run with them, and they're going to expect this all to be more modern.
Information is all going to be in our phones.
Yeah. So I think, you know,
And lots
who
of-
reads that information? What if you've got language problems? What if you
all that is overcome by one press of a button, it will give different language.
and how much of that is going to contribute to improved adherence to the medication, because you know what it does, you've seen an animation of how it works,
And also what medication should be combined with what other medication, the time to take, whether it's good to take in the morning or take in the evening, all that type of information will be very specifically targeted. So you hand over this medicine, the next thing you know is in your phone, this is the time you must take this medicine.
Yeah, you can't find a $1 can of Coke that doesn't have a QR code on it and an interactive game, and probably they'll send you another can in the post with your name written on it.
All
Yeah,
sorts of
we've
things
got
happen.
medicine that is just completely like it was 35 years ago. And I think it's very cool that the person who came up with that idea has still got the vision to see where we go now with the tools that we've got of our time, you know?
Well, you know, let me just interject something. At times like this, mobile will become more important. I mean, obviously, people are having to spend more time indoors, and you know, everyone's glued to their smartphone or their computer when they're at home. This is a time, really, I think that mHealth has a chance to really grow. Maybe people didn't know but use it before for this type of information, but now they're going to have to because they're home alone. And all I've got is a smartphone and a computer.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine if the GSMA had said 2 weeks ago, we're cancelling this, but we're going to run an online event, and we're going to get every mobile operator to come in and share intensive data on what they have. I mean, they know how many searches have been done for coronavirus.
Yeah.
They know when it started trending. They know what people are watching. They know the most popular video in their region. They know this information could be put out there. Public health will never be able to get current with this, never mind the speed with which the mobile operators are, you know, gathering data insights.
Yeah.
Who's looking for it? What's the age group? When are they looking? Are they at home? What hour a day are they looking? All this just intensive data, which could help public health people say.
You just gave me an idea, Dave. I'm going to put it on Twitter. No, really, I'm going to post it on Twitter because they'll look at that, right? Coronavirus, and they look at it ranking and publishing, and right?
Yeah. So imagine they've got their data scientists and the mobile operators, the people that hold the most data in the world, the telcos, the mobile device manufacturers, Apple Health's Ricky Bromfield came forward and said, look, this is what's happening.
Right.
This is what Apple Health is made for when situations like this. And we saw, Kate said it there really clearly. It's times like this that put mobile money into place with Ebola in Africa. And now what we're seeing is mobile health coming to the forefront. We're also seeing the issues where people are unsure what governments are doing with their information. And if we want this approach to work, we've got to get governments saying really clear stands on what they're going to do, how they're going to use medical data. We can't have all doctors, you know, incriminating themselves because they document care.
Okay.
You know, I always look at this AI in medicine as an event on today. I mean, if you're designing programming for computers in healthcare with health information, the easiest thing to do to make money for the next 10 years is just make a solicitor. Just go into every medical record, find every mistake that every doctor's made and approach them with it. Read every x-ray, and get a second opinion. And most of these doctors will have to pay out of court because they haven't got the data sets to compare with an AI solicitor, medical legal solicitor, because it can show.
I don't know.
Well, you look at it, they can search through everything that you did in hospital. They can show when the hospital administered something, when they didn't administer something. They can say what the guidelines are. And they say, well, the patient didn't get his blood pressure read every 3 hours. Therefore, and what we're going to do is cripple the healthcare system with this technology instead of actually insisting that this technology is used to help doctors and nurses work more efficiently. So they're doing like second reads on radiography. to say if your radiographer missed something. Well, that technology, instead of being used to sue a radiologist and discredit them, it should be used there, then, at the time when they're doing the read.
Yeah.
You know, here's a second opinion, you can have it now. You can't go and look back in 5-10 years' time and say, this radiologist made a wrong decision, because the technology we've got today tells him he's using the technology available today. These companies have to be, you know, proactive in terms of giving these tools to the radiologists to do their job, you know.
So internetmedicine.com.
Yeah, this is John's
That's
business.
it. That's it. That's
And,
the source of medicine. It's an MTV of medicine.
Will be, yeah. So let's
Yeah,
let's
you
get,
want to have this gentleman? I don't know who he is, but let me put him up on the screen, and you can tell me.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
He's
Okay.
ready to go.
He's ready to go. Shall I just introduce him?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. So this is the animation talk. Firdhaus is a social innovator, a renowned director, and a global humanitarian. He produces animations, documentaries, films, and television series designed to educate, entertain, and change societal and individual behavior via a process that he calls culture shift. His goal is to positively influence viewers' knowledge, attitude, and behavior, especially that of children and young adults, in order to better the human condition. Kharar's work provides innovative solutions to some of the world's toughest issues by confronting and overcoming the fault lines that separate us: language and culture, religion and ethnicity, tradition and history, stereotype and stigma, racism and prejudice, hatred and fear. I get around the obstacles that separate human beings. I go beyond them to think of us as a human family, using basic core human values. We can take any issue and create cross-cultural campaigns to tackle those issues and save or improve the lives of people, says Corus. In a nutshell, his work saves lives.
Okay, all set?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, I'm Firdhaus Kharar. I'm a media producer based in Ottawa, Canada. I'm delighted to join you today to talk about the new virus now being called COVID-19. My brief talk today is based on my experiences in dealing with other diseases over the last 25 years. I've worked on HIV/AIDS, on malaria, on obesity in children, on migraines, on polio, on Zika, and many other diseases. The first message I want to give is that history has shown us, going all the way back to the HIV/AIDS crisis, which began some 20 years ago, through more recent examples of the Ebola crisis in West Africa a few years ago, and perhaps to the current Ebola crisis in the Congo, is that we don't pay enough attention to prevention. We are quite good at isolating people. We are quite good at dealing with the symptoms of people, such as fever and colds. We're quite good at putting people into hospital and then giving them the drugs that stop them from dying of a particular disease. We are not, however, very good and experienced at preventing people from getting the disease in the first place. And I think that that is happening once again in this COVID-19 crisis. Once again, we are isolating people. We are checking their temperatures and checking them for other symptoms. We are trying to deal with those that have been infected very efficiently by putting them into hospitals, into isolation units, and giving them the drugs that are necessary. All of that needs to happen. But it needs to happen with a complementary program that is at least as important, if not more important, in stopping people from getting the virus in the first place. And my experience over the last 25 years is that we always seem to come to that conclusion late. The question for me is not whether we would stop the virus without taking preventative measures. We probably will. The question is, can we stop the spread of the virus faster by placing an emphasis on prevention? I think we can. I think we can save some people if we place a huge emphasis on prevention rather than simply dealing with people when they are sick, even though, of course, we need to do that. So my suggestion throughout the world is for us to pay great attention to prevention, not just where the virus is currently spreading, in particular in China, but in fact in many other places around the world where the virus could spread and become an even greater crisis than it already is. So how do we go about doing this? We need to create clear, concise, readily understood communications that can reach masses of people. First, we need to explain what the virus is. Second, we need to explain what the symptoms are that a person might have. Third, we need to explain how the virus is transmitted. And fourth, perhaps most importantly, we need to explain how to prevent getting the virus. Here's the additional point I want to make. We also need to deal with the various myths that have shown up throughout the world, especially on social media, about what this virus is or isn't, and how it is or is not transmitted. We can't just provide positive information. We actually have to provide negative information in the sense that we negate the various myths that have cropped up throughout the world about this virus. I've been hearing and reading about some pretty bizarre comments about the coronavirus and how it is transmitted. There is a video, for example, on social media that seems to suggest that eating bat soup gives you the virus. There's another one that says that if you have a flu shot, you can't get the coronavirus. And there's a third one that basically says, don't go to Chinese restaurants because your local Chinese restaurant might give you the virus. All of these are total nonsense. And the reason that they're spreading so fast across the internet is because there is an absence of accurate information that people can watch. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Some years ago, I created a program on malaria prevention called Buzz and Bite. The Buzz and Bite program consists of 30 animated shorts that currently exist in 39 different languages. They have been used in over half the countries that have malaria. About 106 countries around the world experience malaria. I not only dealt with how malaria is transmitted, but I dealt also with how malaria is not transmitted. For example, there's an animated short that says you can't get bitten by those particular mosquitoes and contract malaria during the day because those mosquitoes only bite at night. There's another spot that says you can't get malaria through the weather. Obviously, in many countries, there are more mosquitoes during the rainy season and therefore more malaria during the rainy season than during the dry season. So people came to the conclusion, in some cases, that malaria is caused by the weather. Those are the kinds of myths we now have to deal with this virus. The social media is already full of these kinds of myths that are going around that are destructive, that don't help those people that need clear, precise, and accurate information about the virus and how it is transmitted. I think we need to be proactive, And I think we actually need to tackle these myths head on. So how do we create these communications? Firstly, we must understand that this is a global problem. This is not just a Chinese problem. This is now a global problem. So we have to be able to deal with the various boundaries and cultures and languages that separate human beings. Secondly, we have to understand that this is behavior change communications. What we're trying to do is get people to change their behavior to prevent getting a particular virus. That is quite difficult to do in many cases, especially in countries that may be far removed from the virus currently, but it is the best way to prevent the virus from spreading any further. So how do we create these communications that get across the various boundaries and barriers that we have as human beings? We need to be able to create communications that is readily understood by people across the world in various cultures and various geographies. What we need to do is have people look at the media and then internalize the information that we are giving them, and then come to their own conclusion to change their own behavior. What is the best method for doing this? Over the years, I have observed that the international community has relied mainly on print media. The international community, in dealing with this kind of crisis about a virus, will usually create posters and brochures to try and convince people to change their behavior. I don't think in the current environment of international communications that is the best method. I think it is imperative that we create visual communications. And the best way to do that, I have learned over the last 25 years, is to create animation. Animation gives us a huge number of advantages. It gives you what we would call a suspension of your disbelief system. You know what you're seeing is not real when you're watching animation, so you're more accepting of the message. Secondly, it crosses the cultural boundaries that we have as human beings. So, for example, an animated character can speak any language in the world, and you would be accepting of that person's message. A real person might create a different environment in your brain, a different realization that that person is not actually speaking your language, and that in fact this is a dubbed version of what was created. So animation is, in my opinion, the best way to deal on a rapid basis with this virus and with other health emergencies that may emerge in the future. The communications that I would suggest we create to deal with the COVID-19 virus should not threaten people. It should not try to coerce people into changing their behavior. We have to provide information and then nudge people towards changing their behavior in such a way that they come to their own conclusion that they need to change their behavior. How do we do this? We create cognitive dissonance in a person's mind. Cognitive dissonance is simply a different way of looking at something or thinking about something. It's when you have two conflicting ideas in your mind and you pick one of the two conflicting ideas. So what we need to do is talk about this virus in such a way that it creates cognitive dissonance in the viewer's mind. And the viewer, therefore, comes to their own conclusion to pick the right approach, the right way to change their behavior, and therefore not get infected by the virus. I hope that the international community and governments around the world don't wait for this to become bigger crisis than it already is. I hope that we are proactive, that we create the communications right away, and that we get it out across the world. We can't wait. We can't just deal with people who are sick. We need to stop people from getting the virus in the first place. Thank you for taking the time to watch me today.
Chocolate Mousse Media, animation.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good. I'd like to see some animations about this. Like he said. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me get this production. Like he said, some people just relate to animation.
I think
And
everyone does. I think it's really good storytelling. I've seen some of his stuff. It's a shame.
yeah. I wonder if he has some animation as far as coronavirus. Does he have any animations ready? I wonder.
No,
I
but
wonder if there's any around, Dave, because that would be a good thing for everyone to understand. Really, really.
yeah, well, I've seen some he's done on like just cleaning water, and that's
Yeah.
that's a massive problem.
Yeah.
And when they show this in animation, the detail of a situation disappears, and what you're actually doing stays focused.
Yeah.
Because if I show a bottle of water on an old tin roof, there's so many distractions in that, and what's going on, where he got the water from, what the bottle looks like. Whereas the animation just can play out and work across different markets, which have got different types of roofs and different type. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
It's
Well, I'm just excited about this form of conference that you're showing me, of showing a video clip and not criticizing, but kind of discussing that little video tip. Because for me, I do a lot of live conferences, and I have to have the doctor there, and it's kind of a logistical problem getting them to come at a certain time. But this is a good way to do it, where you have the video, you have the content, you show it, and you discuss it. This is a different platform for me, and I like it. Who do you want to see next, Dave? Is there anybody in particular?
Well, we've got Richard Sills, and he's saying, can we call out to him? No.
Yeah, we can enter people that want to come in if they want to come in now. Sure.
Yeah. So I've
anybody that wants to come in. Doctor, what's your first name?
Sam.
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 Hi.
Okay, Sam. Yeah, Sam. Any of your friends, if you want to invite them in to the panel, you're welcome to. Let me know, and I'll invite them in.
I just got a message from someone watching in China. So this is a guy called Lauren Le Pen. He's the founder CEO at Omate. He's just arrived back to his 6 days ago. He arrived back to his office in Shenzhen after extension of the Chinese New Year holidays due to coronavirus. And then what he wrote originally was that it broke his heart when his daughter asked him why she couldn't go back to kindergarten. His wife and I did their best to entertain the kids as much as possible, but the lockdown measures and self-quarantine can be harsh on people, particularly toddlers. Lauren continues by saying, hopefully everything will be fine by the end of March and back to normal by May.
Yeah.
50% of the staff is back to work today, and we must follow strict restrictions, but the willingness to rise above that challenge is greater than ever. I think the whole supply chain in IoT, Internet of Things, and consumer electronics are still operating at far below capacity, and it's far from business as usual. All our projects were impacted, but our mission to deliver wearable as a service to people who need protection remains unchanged. This is actually his business at Onate. It's like wearable watches for lone workers. His sympathies are at this time with those affected in Wuhan and all around the world, and with medical staff working around the clock to provide care to patients. And then #GoWuhan. And I wrote to Lauren asking if he was seeing any mobile innovations that are making life easier in the lockdown that those of us outside China could learn from and emulate to help manage and contain the outbreak. And I asked him, to consider sharing them as part of this event. And Lauren writes back that maybe you can add this to your presentation. This is a poster that's been seen on the metro station, and it allows the authorities to know who is in the metro, and if one passenger gets infected, they can contact the other passengers around. He refers to this as useful yet scary, and he's just took photos of that in the metro station. So I've got that. Now everyone uses WeChat there to pay and on the metro, so they already know your name and trip details when you're in there. Another interesting thing that's happened there is that the mobile operators allowed a short code to be pushed to the mobile operator. So you basically type in a few numbers and you press it, and it basically lists all the places you've been in the last month. And employers are asking for this before you go to work. So they're saying, can I see that you haven't been? But this idea that you're in contact, so if you're on the same carriage as someone, it will come up that you've actually had close proximity to someone who's now been diagnosed. So then you can isolate.
Doing, I see.
That's what they're doing. So it's a use of location, but it's obviously, he's saying, you can see people find that scary, and to inform someone of that. But what a useful capacity. I mean, everyone knows who's on the flight. We looked at the 111 service the NHS is doing and the advice there, and it was all about, if you have done this and you are now at this website, you must take this action. Obviously, the Chinese are being proactive in terms of, we know you are here. This is what you need to do. That's,
I'd like to see some of his videos, some of his animation. I'm sure that would be excellent.
Well, let's look it up. I'll get some. I'll get one.
Okay, Dave. Do you want to show someone's video right now?
No, let's get up Chocolate Mousse.
Okay.
Let's Chocolate Mousse Media, and I'll show you.
Yeah, I like this free form of journalism.
Yeah, go on.
Because why not? It doesn't have to be so formal.
No. Yeah, so if you go on to Chocolate Mousse Media.
Yeah, you can take it. If you want, you can share the screen, or you want me to share the screen.
Weaker from spreading. What would you like to see? Use an animation to battle Ebola? As a form.
I'd like to see an example of it. What he means,
I'll send you the link.
Yeah, send me the link and I'll put it up.
Yeah,
this is we're going fast at the speed of time, at the speed of light.
My dearest family.
Okay, you gotta share it there. You know how to share? Click the share button. The share button there at the bottom.
I am sick because this is.
Okay, you got it?
Okay, let me check.
I sent it on the panel message.
Yeah. You sent it an email, right?
No, a panel message.
Oh, okay, hold on.
That's a beautiful animation.
Oh, okay.
Any animation on Ebola there?
Yeah, he's got an Ebola. He hasn't done a coronavirus, but that's part of what he's asking for. He's asking, these mobile operators could have done that. They could have gone.
Has to do it, no?
Yeah, they could have said, look, let's make this piece of content for Mobile World Congress, and a disrupted industry contributes to the problem.
From India, somebody sent it to me. Beautiful animation, but in Hindi.
Oh.
Okay, here we go. Here we go, Dave and Sam.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He's going to play this one now.
My dearest family, because you love me, I need you to stop, think, and listen. I am sick because this disease called Ebola lives inside me. This Ebola is not a curse. Ebola is a virus. Father, please tell others and save them. I'm sorry, Mama, for causing you this much pain. I know this could have been prevented. If only I had heeded the warnings and not have exposed myself to the virus. No matter what people say, tradition kills and superstitious ways have no power to stop this Ebola. Father, our family's only hope is my isolation. Do not touch my skin, blood, my sweat, my saliva, and my soul close because I have the Ebola. Oh, Mama, I feel your loving eyes gazing at me. I feel the mighty love you have for me. I know you yearn to hold and care for me, to bathe your child in the cool shade of our home. But because you love me, Mama, I need you to be stronger than your tears. Support the scientists and the medical staff. They are our only hope. These are good people from around the world. They did not bring this sickness to us. They are risking their lives to help us defeat the virus and live. Report the illness whenever it surfaces to the experts. Honor me, brother, in this way, as I will do the same for you. And if I should lose this battle, honor me with a good burial, but make sure nobody touches my body. Father, do not allow greed to turn against wisdom. Brother, save our family's future. Sister, sing not of my suffering, sing of my courage. The courage of Mama gave us all. I know what I ask of you is the hardest thing you will ever do. That you respect my wishes. Fills me with massive pride.
Okay.
Well, I think you can see there is quite interesting.
Yeah. I wish I'd make that shorter.
Now, obviously, it was done in English there, but that could be because they have to show that to the people that are paying for it. You know, the NGOs or whatever that are paying.
No,
for it.
I put the subtitles on.
Oh, you put them on? All right.
Yeah, I put them on.
The language can be changed.
Yeah, I could put that in a different language too, I think. Yeah, let me try to do that. That's a good point, Dave, and that's
that allowed you to change the language just by clicking a button on the YouTube.
Yeah, that's important. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on now. Okay, give me a minute. That's one of the wonderful things about YouTube that is happening here.
A lot of people underestimate the literacy.
Yeah, I'm going to share it now.
Father, please tell others, save them.
See it? It's in Arabic.
I'm sorry, Mama, for causing you this much pain. I know this could have been prevented.
Yeah, it's that's one of the wonderful things about YouTube is you can translate recorded videos into almost any language you want, which is a fantastic option for an educational video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also they can go and set this up as a made for mobile content. So they can make it for the format of the screens of the Nokia phones that are being used in that market. They can set it for the file size, so it's Bluetooth shareable. It doesn't overdo the limit on the phones. And they can also put the language in whichever country. And they haven't got completely remaking the content, of someone speaking.
You know, I wasn't sure about the gentleman that presented the animation. If he probably knows about translation. I don't know if you mentioned it. Did he
so
mention it? He did mention
he does localizations into all the different countries.
Oh, okay.
Different animation. That's one of the key values of an animation, that you don't have to dub the voice.
Right. But what the public needs to know is that you can do that. I think most of the public doesn't know you can translate almost any YouTube video into any language. I mean, a big step is going to be when they do it in real time. When it's done in real time, that'll be huge for a conference.
Yeah, people will be able to understand me, for example.
Oh, yeah, you could be translated to English.
Should we try and...
Who would you like now?
So Richard Sills is trying to log on.
Okay, he just needs to click the link. Tell him to just click the link and follow the directions. You gave him the link, right? He's going to give a live presentation?
He just said he tried to join and got some cartoon about Ebola.
No. Just click the link and follow the directions. He needs to come in the panel. He wants to come in the panel, right?
Coming in, yeah?
Yeah, he's just watching it. He needs to come in the panel with that link.
Scrap it. Come on now, come on. Sam's here with me. John Bennett's in Miami, and we'll have a little chat about it. We've talked about the whole content, and everything's been lining up. All right, I could go. All right.
You know, that's the thing about video. A lot of doctors, as smart as they are in their profession, they can't use the video platform. You know, it took me a while. You know, it's getting over the fear, I think, of video.
Yeah.
That's,
you know, the more you do, and the more people experience it in the watch mode.
Yeah.
So it's going to be easy for them to say, geez, look at those donkeys doing it. I got to be able to do this.
Well, you know, I like this way of doing it. People are recorded, but there's a mindset, you know, about conference live, you know, even if the video is only a couple hours old, it's the content you're after. I mean, you don't really care too much with the person. You want to get the content of what he says. And
Sam does what's probably the biggest live stream doctor conference once a month at the BMA.
Oh, really?
Sam,
let's hear about it.
Sam, tell them what you do.
Sorry?
Do you know the BMA?
No,
tell them what you do at the BMA. And
we put program 2 a month in the British Medical Association's headquarters, attended by, say, about 100 people, but at the same time, in the webinar, average of 1,000 people will walk in and share their thoughts. They can type in questions. They can.
Oh, you're kidding! For the AMA, huh?
British Medical Association.
Oh, can you show me? Can you show us video?
No, it's a member-only thing. This is one of the problems. The BMA does this within membership. So when I go, I was there, and it was 1,300.
Oh, it's private. That's okay. That's okay. That's a lot of
but
things.
They have to do it for members in that way, and but I think it's
it's going strong.
Good.
And you know, the doctors, it's so suited to getting your CPD this way.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get these points, 50 points a year for most doctors now. And 1 point is 1 hour.
They can learn.
And they can watch, learn. They can have their tea.
Share their information. Yeah. They can give feedback.
Yeah.
They can ask questions. They can give their experience.
Are you going to be doing one on coronavirus?
I'm trying to getting the speakers.
Yeah. So, but I mean, imagine that content was going out wider, beyond the members, you know?
Sure.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend using it. But in India, Africa, people are shy to start. And these are residents, and these are medical students. There a lot are hesitant to try it because I'll have panelists come in, say from Africa, that I'll ask them to introduce themselves, but they don't want to. You know. And I'd like to say to them, wait a minute, you're going for a career in medicine. You better get used to having your face seen. You better get used to identifying yourself for the rest of your life, because your name is your identity. and don't be ashamed to introduce yourself and say, I'm John Bennett, I'm Dr. Bennett. Don't be afraid,
Yeah, sure.
but a little shyness. But I think after they get over the shyness that, well, do you run across the same thing, Doc? You must run across the same thing and other doctors, right?
No, I think
They're
we've been
required
doing
to
this for
attend.
many years now, so got used to it.
Okay, so they're required to attend.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a little different.
No, he just invites them. He just says, come along and talk.
All the members are invited.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
oh,
the
okay.
speakers, you just
Oh,
make them.
I
over.
invite the speaker.
Is it a high percentage of doctors that take the option to join you?
Everyone he asks.
Yes, most people, when I ask, they say yes.
Oh,
It's
okay.
amazing.
Well, good. I haven't been as successful, but we keep trying.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
we had to keep trying.
if you
that's
had
it.
BMA behind you and you had a member thing and you had them, the CPD
And you have
accreditation is important. I think if you had that, you'd have more audiences.
Yeah, and the email list, the huge email list, right? The mailing list. Do you have a mailing list?
Yes, the BMA member list.
Oh,
BMA
wow. I
members
mean,
would
that's like 50,000, right? That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're gonna get a good audience for that.
Well, I think yours can be bigger. You've got a wider audience. Anyone can watch yours. You don't have to pay membership. You're in a good position, John, really.
Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Okay, Dave. I guess Richard's not coming in.
No.
So-
Let's wrap it up, right? I've got some other talks that I'll add on the video at the end.
Internetmedicine.com.
Okay.
People will
Where the
watch
internet
it,
meets
yeah.
medicine.
Okay, you want to just wrap up the?
And what do you think in terms of some of the drug companies and the medical device companies about sponsoring something like John's work at Internet Medicine?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? This is where people's eyeballs are.
That's one aspect of I have to learn the business, how to get sponsors and stuff. But we'll learn that, Dave, later. Don't worry about that.
But I mean, also, there's telcos watching this. They're in the market of bringing new things to healthcare professionals. This should be their bread and butter. They should be saying that,
Well, Dave, I definitely like to do with you. I have a show like this where you get video spots of relevant people for a couple of weeks, and then you go over them with relevant people, the video clips, medical clips,
Yeah.
and then you have a show like this. I mean, this is great. Like I say, I have to go contact the speakers, have them come into the conference, and it has to be live. But this kind of half live, half recorded is a nice way to approach it.
I'm just sending the guy in San Diego in case he can come on. And this is Dr. Chris Pickford.
Yes,
Okay.
good idea.
And,
So, Sam, are you in London? You're in Dublin now, right, Dave?
no, in London now.
Oh, you're in London now. Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
came to London, yes.
Okay, are you at a school or university or?
We're just next to the clinic in the RSM in London, Royal Society of Medicine.
Oh, it's a clinic.
It's actually the society, so it's Royal Society of Medicine. So
Oh, cool. Yeah, it looks like a nicely outfitted room.
yeah, they've done a great job, and the Wi-Fi is nice and fast. And
It's really good.
yeah, and obviously there's a very famous street up the road, Harley Street, where Professor Lingham has a medical express clinic.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to show
walking.
I'm going to show you, Sam, and the viewers how to test the internet.
Oh, the ping test.
Yeah. Can you run that there? I'm curious as to what it is. It's speedtest.net.
Okay.
And the viewers will be able to watch this live if they want to check their internet connection, how fast it is. Speedtest.net.
And then I pressed go, and it's coming up.
You have to run it that. Yeah, ping.
My ping is 5 milliseconds.
Oh wow, I can tell it's good.
They just put fiber up the main street, didn't they? They dug up.
I think this area is fiber.
Yeah, they just did. My download is 35.4, and my upload is in the region of 26. That's not bad, is it?
Ring Dr. Lobo.
Did you need one of these? 25.6, ping 5, download 35.
That's great. Those are great numbers.
Okay.
You can televise anywhere with that. Let me show you my numbers here.
You're hearing Professor Lingham there just using Siri to make his calls. He's a big fan of smartphones.
Ring Raymond.
Calling Raymond Lobo. Work.
Okay, I'm gonna.
All right.
Anyone can do this at home. They can. They
Okay.
can check their. You can see this, okay, Dave, right?
Yep, yep. Oh, you're quicker than me.
Hi, Raymond. Two questions to you. How are you?
Boy, it's good today. Download 93. Wow, it's getting better. Good numbers, Dave. Okay. Okay, very good. You want to just, I'll put the stop on the recording and, yeah.
When is that?
So,
Okay, what time do you want to return? Do you want to return or what time?
no, I think we're fine there. I'll add a video on the end. I've got a couple more talks that are coming through, and I'll play those videos at the end. I'll add them
So
on.
shall we do that way?
Yeah, hold on. Hold on, Dave. Okay, you want to, what do you want to do, Dave?
Anyone's got any ideas, get in touch with me. mHealth Insight, just go on the comments there underneath this. And if you've got something else you'd like to share.
Oh, well, could I put my talk on again? Because we kind of had a half video when I did my presentation. Can I put it back on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you got nothing better to do, unless you got something better.
No, you do it. Yeah.
Okay, then after that, are you going to have more stuff?
No, I think we'll wrap now.
Okay, we'll wrap it up with that video and.
Yeah.
And thanks a lot. And Dave, let's continue this, man. I think you got a good thing there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be every day. I mean, every week, but you can do it a couple times a month where you just get the right people, video clips, and just run with it. I think it's something to explore.
Definitely. Sam just got called. Sam.
Okay. Okay. See you, Sam. Thank you for coming.
See you soon.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good day. This is Dr. John Bennett lecturing from Miami Beach. Welcome. Dave asked me to speak on live streaming, the state of the art and my experience. So let me briefly start my presentation, PowerPoint presentation. Okay, live streaming. Why, how, and when? Now, live streaming defined as broadcasting a live event over the internet. In this case, medical conferences, webinars, or directly from the presenter's computer device if the event is completely online. Now, why live streaming? Today, with changes to the internet and 5G, etc., live streaming is definitely going to become more prominent, especially in the third world. So I think it's best we kind of get ready to use it to our advantage as far as education, networking, etc. Okay, well, the advantages of live streaming. Of course, it's convenient. You can do it from home or computer device, office, wherever. You don't have to go to a location. Okay, of course, there's no travel cost because you just do it from home or the office. And sometimes it's not even necessary to take any time off from your practice if you have one. Now, one thing I think that live streaming will bring to the audience is that the ability to attend more conferences, maybe not necessarily a 5-day conference, but you can attend online conference in areas not necessarily your specialty. In other words, you can go to conferences on robotics, 3D printing, nanomedicine, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, conferences which you normally would not go to because, you know, most people can go to 1 or 2 conferences a year. and they can't use it up for robotics or 3D printing conference. However, if it's live stream online, you can adapt more to your schedule. And again, the variety of live streams available will increase tremendously, I feel. I've seen it already lately, the number of live streaming in medicine especially. I noticed them propping up in India, South America, where I didn't see them before. So it's going to be a tool that's is being used more often. It allows viewers to interact with scientists in other fields that you wouldn't normally interact with at a conference. However, online, you can easily interact with other silos like robotics, 3D printing. You can have a neurosurgeon interacting with artificial intelligence, etc. I think through this hybridization, science will be advanced in no small manner, in many aspects, due to the interaction of scientists from different areas. Now, the effectiveness, it's been evidence-based proved that interaction video platforms is one of the best forms of education, according to evidence. And you can look up this article. By the way, all this is in internetmedicine.com/livestream if you want to see the text of my PowerPoint. And you can also see the reference to the article talking about interactive live streams. Now, the disadvantage, of course, is less intimate than an in-person experience, of course. And you have to learn a new tech. And to be honest, a lot of doctors have never done a live stream, never participated in a live stream. So, however, I feel that once the scientists sees the advantages of online education, they'll readily participate. How to live stream? Live streaming with wired connection is pretty straightforward. You just hook up, make the necessary hookups, and away you go. Today, I'm going to be more concerned with wireless mobile live streaming, and not necessarily from auditoriums that are equipped. I'm talking about just regular classrooms, regular auditoriums in hospitals. We made up a laptop conference room with different types of equipment. I'll run through that because it simply just needs a laptop and an internet connection, of course, and a screen in the auditorium. Now, suppose you have a conference room and a classroom conference. You can set up the laptop in the conference just like you see in the picture here, and just one cord directly to the screen. Because you have an audience in the room, you can effectively lecture to that audience with your laptop, which has the PowerPoint. And also, the beauty of it is that laptop acts like a camera, a microphone, and a place to share the PowerPoint. And the physician or the scientist stands there and puts the PowerPoint up, which simultaneously also goes up on the board, and is effectively shown to the audience and effectively streamed to the internet. And the way that you're streamed to the internet is you use platforms like Zoom, which goes to the laptop and allows an internet audience to share in the educational experience. Now, at the site of the stream, a good Wi-Fi connection, sometimes you can get by with a medium, but you try to get as good as you can as far as Wi-Fi. And you can test it. You can test it. You can www.speedtest.net will tell you the speed of any internet connection. And we've been doing these laptop conferences from we do grand rounds, Jordan neurosurgery grand rounds from Amman, Jordan, every Wednesday at 6 o'clock with Dr. Sabea. All it's used is this laptop, and they actually use a webcam that kind of makes it a little more luxurious than just the laptop camera, but it's a better picture. And this is what Dr. Sabea looks like on this little picture. I hope you can see it. But Dr. Sabea is lecturing to a hall, and he also has a PowerPoint up there. And we actually get a good stream of that screen. It goes directly to the laptop and directly to the internet. And as I said, in Jordan, they use this camera here extra. Rather than using the camera that comes with the laptop, he used an extra camera. It's a little better. Okay, this is the webcast we had from Romania for their Walter Dandy meeting. And what was used was exactly that, just the laptop, the connection to the screen in the auditorium, the HDMI cord, and the internet connection. She's lecturing. You don't have to wear her Santa's outfit, but this happened to be around Christmas. But this medical student, excuse me, medical student is lecturing to a room full of students, as well as the internet audience. Okay, and here's what it looks like. This is Spanish, but basically, the presenter is there. Like Elena is at the laptop, and the cord is connected to the screen. It's a very simple setup. I don't show the internet connection, but it's an internet connection to this laptop, a Wi-Fi connection. Okay, now in some third world settings, you don't have a laptop, you don't have a classroom, but you have a smartphone. And you can use that smartphone for an educational experience. You basically are connected wirelessly through the smartphone, and you're able to set up with a projector directly whatever comes into the signal. If that's a live stream, that'll go on the wall with this little projector, and you could effectively teach in a very low resource area. Effectively, just as effectively as the best auditorium. Now, what might also be used in your presentations is this. This is a wireless headset. Instead of just using the sound of the laptop, you can use a USB connection here, which is very easy to use. Plug it into the laptop, and you can walk around the auditorium for 200 feet away from the laptop. So you can interact with the audience. You can walk around, point to the scans or the imaging studies on the screen. And here's the Amazon link. And we have no relation to these products. We're just mentioning the ones that we use. Okay. Now, recollections. Okay, I've been doing this for about 8 years, not full time, but pretty well a lot of time. We have regular live streams every week from Jordan, neurosurgery grand rounds. We have an Africa neurosurgery grand round once a week, Saturdays at 5 o'clock Cameroon time. And we have the neurosurgery Super Sunday every Sunday from Nepal at 5 o'clock. Now, there is a learning curve with these platforms, and Zoom, which is the one that we use, and we have no financial ties to Zoom, but however, that's the best platform I've found. For the user, it is free. It's zoom.us/download. You can download that platform to use it, to participate for free. Now, these platforms are getting a lot easier to use. Zoom allows you to schedule conferences far in advance. You can put up 10 different conferences that you want to live stream and easily organize it. Google Hangout, which we used prior to Zoom, Zoom came around about 3 years ago, became really popular and powerful. We use Google Hangouts, but Google kind of stopped developing the Hangouts. So we migrated to Zoom. Now, a lot of physicians have not used live streaming, but however, I think that'll change once the value is shown and once the consistency of production. You know, we have a lot of live streaming events where we make mistakes. There's connections that are not great, and the panelists are learning the etiquette, you know, how to mute yourself, how to screen share, etc. So there's a learning curve with that, and we will become better at it. Now AI, let me just mention AI, which is improving the immediate translation of languages. Right now with YouTube, you can translate your presentation, your video into any language. However, real time will bring another dimension. If you can live stream in real time translation, that amplifies an audience. For example, if you have an audience in English at a conference, you'll be immediately translate it and televise it in another language. That's very valuable. In other words, you can watch a neurosurgery presentation in China, and it can be translated immediately into English. So that broadens the field and makes more accessible a lot of presentations. Interaction will increase with platforms such as holograms. We'll be able to see a mass of atoms next to you in a room and be talking to someone that looks like you know, and consulting on a case. I mean, that's the future, and it is going to happen. It is happening now, but not in widespread. The networking that one gets from participating in these conferences is simply awesome. The people you meet, I've met people all over the world, and I don't have a big name in academics or medicine or anything else. I'm just a guy that knows how to use the Zoom platform, and I spend time at it. Like, I think if anybody spent time at this platform, they would get pretty adept. Now, the state of the art today, it's frustrating with the third world, with the connections, and people really aren't too adept at muting, and there's audio problems, etc. But I think if we maintain the course and stay patient, that we will be able to effectively televise many events, and not televise. I mean, you talk about content in the world. A lot of hospitals have valuable educational content every day in hospitals across the world. Of course, the smaller hospitals don't, but you get a decent-sized hospital, most likely they have conferences, especially academic centers, and it all can be translated, all can be televised. It's just a matter of setting it up. Of course, there are privacy and security concerns, but those will be dealt with effectively, so that there'll be a mass of educational material to pick from. I think we should have a MTV of medicine. I think it's on the future to have 24 hours a day of live broadcasts of valuable medical content. 24 hours a day. That would be my dream. 24 hours a day to have a medical TV, to be able, any time of the day, be able to go to a specialty, say dermatology, and in Thailand, you want to watch a show about impetigo or whatever at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, hell, they do it with cats 24 hours a day. They do it with crime. And why not MTV of medicine? So I thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the conference. Thank you.